You know, every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, you know, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, you know, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you. So where else do you have an opportunity to call a talk show for a full hour? I mean, you know, you can call anytime. Obviously, you can't call for the hour, but you can call anytime during the hour for a full hour and talk to one of the two, you know, Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Mark Pocan. We did it for 11 years with Senator Sanders. In fact, we started when he was Congressman Sanders. Where else do you have an opportunity to actually call one of the leading members of Congress, the leaders of the whole Progressive Caucus, the largest or second largest caucus in the Democratic Party? When else do you have where else do you have the opportunity to call and say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I like this legislation. What's your opinion on that? What's really going on behind the scenes? You know, unfiltered, you know, it's just straightforward. Well, not very many places. We do it on this show. We've always done it on this show since basically the first year of this program when Bernie started out with us. And we're very proud to do that on this program, to provide a national town hall to genuinely progressive candidates. If you like that, if you find that of value, among all the other things that we talk about on this program, from my rants to, you know, people like Richard Wolff and whatnot, please support our program, support Free Speech TV. Call now, 877-378-8669. We are still way behind in our fundraising drive. We're up to maybe 30-35% of what we need, where we need to be as of this point. And, you know, we're slowly getting there, and a number of people have been calling, and I thank you so much if you called in yesterday or the day, well, anytime in the last, you know, couple of weeks. Thank you. And if you haven't called yet, and literally $5 is a big deal. If you've never contributed to Free Speech TV, you get a regular monthly newsletter and email that just tells you what's going on Free Speech TV, and you're literally helping support this network stay on the air. It costs money to run a television network. We're not going to billionaires and we're not going to corporations for that money, and so we have to have your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help keep Free Speech TV on the air, help keep this program on Free Speech TV. It really it won't happen without your support. And, you know, if we keep having these terrible fundraising numbers like in the last couple days we've been within 10% of hitting our goals. But the previous week we were at 5 or 10% of our goals. I mean, it was just downright scary. And now we've got to overcome that. We've got to make that back up. And we really, really need your help right now. So please, if you support this program, if you care about this show, if you care about Free Speech TV, call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. You can also donate at freespeech.org. We have some premiums. With a $20 one-time gift, you get the Trump toilet paper, a roll of Trump toilet paper. You know, how cool is that? With a $50 gift, you get the Trump toilet brush and stand. This is incredible stuff. With a $60 gift, you get both, right? If you bought them one at a time, they'd be $70, but with a $60 gift, you get both the toilet paper and the stand, and the brush with the stand. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. with a $20 a month gift. That's a commitment for at least a year to say, yes, every month, just ding my credit card for $20. And with that contribution, and these are pretty important contributions also, these regular recurring contributions, because it helps Free Speech TV, budget. With that gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, you get the stainless steel water bottle with Democracy Starts With You on it, and the tote bag with a $30 a month commitment for at least a year. With a $500 gift, we're going to do a virtual meet and greet. It'll be just us. We're not going to be broadcasting this. We're not going to be recording it. I mean, it's just going to be an opportunity to talk. It'll be on the internet, and we're going to have a good time. We've done these before, a little less high profile than talking like this, and it's fascinating. With that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come hang out with me in person. You can come here to Portland anytime. We schedule these things a couple times a month, well, maybe every 2-3 weeks. Typically 4, 5, 6 people come, bring a spouse or a friend, or some people have brought their kids. It's been interesting. It's been fascinating. The people that I meet, who are regular viewers of this program here on Free Speech TV, just some wonderful people. And you'll get to meet a few other great people who are also $1,000 donors. Or if you're going to be in Philadelphia for the Netroots Nation, or if you live in the area, I'll be there on July 12th. And we'll be doing our show live from Philadelphia, from Netroots Nation, from the Free Speech TV booth there. And we'll have a little cocktail party on the 12th. So we'll have that meet and greet. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. Wow, there is so much in the news today. I want to, first of all, you got Trump endorsing treason. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I think the biggest news, and time will tell. But last month there were 4 attacks on tankers in the Straits of Hormuz. About a third of the world's oil comes out of this one region, and there's out of that Gulf region, and there's this little kind of isthmus that sticks up that creates this what's called the Straits of Hormuz. It's just a very narrow area. It's like going through a little tiny river between 2 giant oceans, and tankers going through there are vulnerable to small boats, all kinds of stuff. And there were 4 attacks last month. There were 2 today. And let me put this in context. The larger context is that these number one, Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, met with Donald Trump just a few weeks ago, and Trump came over for the whole investiture ceremony for the new emperor, and to watch a sumo match because he's into worldwide wrestling, and Abe is trying to, Japan relies on Iranian oil among other things, and if Iranian oil is altogether cut off, countries that literally have no oil, like Japan, are in deep trouble, or at least their expenses go up dramatically, and so he's trying to get Trump to work something out with Iran. And, apparently Trump said, okay, cool, you work something out and maybe I'll join. I don't know, we'll see, But obviously what Trump wants is a deal that doesn't have Obama's name on it, that has his name on it. But in any case, Shinzo Abe goes to Iran to sit down and negotiate with the Iranians on behalf of the United States and presumably the other European countries. Japan is part of this international alliance of actual liberal democracies, progressive democracies, developed nations. And so these 2 tankers get blown up, and the reports I heard on BBC News as I was walking into work this morning, I haven't seen this repeated in the American news, but this is what the British press is reporting, the BBC was reporting, is that both tankers were carrying Iranian oil products. They probably were refined someplace other than Iran because of the embargo and all that. One is naphtha or methanol or something. Yeah, naphtha, I think, and the other was another compound. So these are refined oil products, but carrying Iranian oil products to Japan. And so who would do that, right? It certainly wouldn't be Iran. Although John Bolton has come out and said, oh, yeah, this has Iran's fingerprints all over it, or words to that effect. In fact, Iran was almost certainly involved. That's what Bolton said. Yeah, sure, they're blowing up their own ships while they're trying to negotiate with Shinzo Abe. Give me a break. I mean, this is how weird and sick and twisted John Bolton is. But who has an interest in blowing up these talks? I mean, you know, in particular, I think it would be Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia right now is fighting a proxy war with Iran in Yemen. The Houthi rebels, they're Shia Muslims, as is Iran. The Shia and the Sunnis don't like each other, to say the very least. Saudi Arabia is the principal proponent of and exporter of radical Sunni Islam to the world. They fund mosques all over the world that preach the kind of stuff that Osama bin Laden, a Saudi Wahhabist, believed. And so they're promoting this hard right version of Sunni Islam. And the Iranians are, frankly, promoting a hard right version of Shia Islam. And they're having this proxy war now in Yemen, which is killing civilians like crazy. The United States government tried to cut off, you know, or at least Congress, both the House and the Senate, both Democrats and Republicans, passed a law saying no more money is going to go to Iran for this, is going to go to Saudi Arabia for the purposes of buying our weapons, because they're using them to kill children in Yemen. You've got, you know, hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen starving right now. There's a famine going on there as a result of the Saudis and this war. I mean, this is serious and grim stuff that's going on. And my concern is that this is how World War I started. The way that World War I started, Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo. The Austro-Hungarian Empire took that as an assault, and it was just like, all these countries in Europe had these interlocking defense agreements. If you're attacked, then we're attacked, and boom, we just the whole world just exploded into World War I, and a complete mess. So what do we do with this? How do we carry this forward? What happens here? Is this the beginning of World War I? So, number one, I wanted to point that out. I'm very concerned about that. If you have thoughts beyond what I've shared, certainly feel free to give us a shout. I think this is a really serious issue. Meanwhile, there's just so much in the news. Senator Sanders gave an extraordinary speech yesterday in which he was essentially defending what we would call democratic socialism as the only way to defeat oligarchy and authoritarianism. And Senator Sanders is on the line with us right now. Senator, welcome back.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Great to have you with us. That was a hell of a speech. You want to, for people who didn't hear it or didn't catch it, you want to summarize the points you were making?
Yeah, thank you. Number one, what I did is make the point that way back in 1944, in a not widely publicized speech, State of the Union speech, Franklin Delano Roosevelt said something that was really profound. And what he said, Tom, is that, we have a Bill of Rights, we have a Constitution that protects our political rights, your freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, and all of that is enormously important. But what we don't have, and what we should have, and this is what he said way back in 1944, he said, we need an economic Bill of Rights. We need to guarantee that all of the people in our country have economic rights. What are those economic rights? Those economic rights mean that when you go to work, you get decent pay, a decent job, that everybody is entitled to health care, that everybody is entitled to all of the education that they need, that people have the right to live in decent and affordable housing, that when you get old, you can retire with dignity, that you have a right to know that when you turn on the water faucet in your home, the water you are drinking is not toxic. So we talked about yesterday is economic rights as human rights. So right now you got the right to vote, but meanwhile you're working 2 or 3 jobs and you can't provide for your family. We got to change that. That's number one. Number two, the point that I made is that if you are going to defeat right-wing authoritarianism, whether it's Donald Trump in the United States or Putin or all of these other authoritarian leaders around the world who are attacking democracy. The only way that I know how you do that is you have an agenda that speaks to the needs of working families, and you have a movement which is prepared to stand up to the very powerful special interests that control our economic and political life. Now, a lot of folks out there are very well-intentioned. Everybody talks about we have to improve healthcare, we have to improve education and climate change and all that. But at the end of the day, there is a reason why in the last 43 years, the average American worker has seen no increase in his or her inflation accounted for wages. Imagine that, 43 years, an explosion of technology, explosion of worker productivity, and working families are in exactly the same place in terms of their real wages. There's a reason why the very, very rich are getting richer. There's a reason why Wall Street today, after being bailed out, their concentration of ownership is even greater. Reason why the fossil fuel industry continues to go forward, destroying the planet. And we have got to recognize that. And that's a hard thing to do. But I think what we are striving for in this campaign, and what I do, is to try to create an unprecedented grassroots movement that is, in fact, prepared to take on the incredibly powerful special interests whose greed is destroying what this country is all about. So that, in a nutshell, is what a 45-minute speech was about.
That's great. I'm curious your thoughts on President Trump's statement yesterday that it's fine to accept gifts, things of value in this case.
And then he says, in so many words, he says, well, that's the way the real world is.
Yeah, he says every member of Congress does it, right? I've never heard of such a thing.
I think he used the word real world. And when you think about this guy's business career and the fact that he was involved in, I think, some 3,000 lawsuits.
Yeah.
That he ripped off many of the small private contractors. That is his real world. His real world is not based upon any ethical standard. He lies, he cheats. So if you have that moral standard, then why would we be surprised that if somebody came in and gave him illegal information that he would use it? So, I'm not shocked by anything that comes out of the White House, and that's why our major priority has got to be to defeat somebody who really does believe, as president, he is above the law and that the Constitution and the laws of the United States do not apply to him.
Yeah, so well said. Senator Bernie Sanders, the only way to defeat oligarchy and authoritarianism. So great to have you with us, Senator. Thank you so much for dropping by today.
Okay, Tom, you take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Great talking with you. We'll be back in just a moment. Number one, what are your thoughts on Donald Trump committing treason? I'll get to that and actually after the break in more detail. Number two, your thoughts on Iran. Richard Wolff is going to be with us, by the way, in the second hour. We've got a lot coming up.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 17 minutes past the hour. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. And welcome back. Is it time to initiate impeachment proceedings? Does a bear go in the woods? Right. Carrie Elveld over at Daily Kos noting that basically what Donald Trump did yesterday in his conversation with George Stephanopoulos was put a price tag on the White House. Essentially what he said was, hey, any foreign country, if you want to help me out, I'll help you out. No problem. We can make this happen, right? If it's Russia, we'll lift sanctions on you, or we'll do what we can to help sanctions. He got the sanctions on Deripaska lifted, and now Deripaska is building an aluminum factory in Kentucky to help Mitch McConnell get reelected. So, apparently this isn't just Trump. This is McConnell as well, willing to take support from foreigners, although, Deripaska arguably is not the Russian government. But, or it could be the Israeli government, or it could be the Saudi government, or it could be the Chinese government, or it could be the North Korean government. Hey, they've got some very good hackers there. Hey, look at what we just discovered about, Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or, fill in the blanks, Joe Biden. This is just so wrong. I mean, the law is very clear. It is against the law for any political campaign to take anything of value from a foreign power, or I believe from even a foreign citizen. Now, I may be wrong on the second part there, but I know that it's illegal to take it from a foreign power, which is exactly what Trump did in order to get elected in 2016. He took assistance from apparently the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Russia. Russia played the largest and most high-profile role, the one that Mueller was focused on, but now we know that there were at least 5, probably 6 countries altogether that were operating to support the Trump presidency. We have a guy in the White House. I mean, talk about the Manchurian candidate. We've got a guy in the White House who was put there by a foreign power. And he just came out and said, hey, that's cool with me. Do it again. He wants, it's like, and he will pay them off. It's an open invitation to bribery. I mean, this is just insane. And then on top of this, Mitch McConnell is blocking any legislative attempts to stop this. I think this is treason. I really do. You can impeach a president for treason. It's sure if not treason, it's some variation on it. It's definitely. I mean, high crimes, as mentioned in the impeachment clause in the Constitution, that does not refer to a specific law that you have violated. It means crimes against democracy, crimes against the republic. It means the violation of the norms and the basic civilized rules of society. They were purposely, high crimes is not mentioned anywhere else in any legislation, anywhere else in the Constitution. Why? Because they wanted it to be broad enough that if a president was out of control, Congress could do something about it. They could remove that president from office. And boy, if there was ever a time, here we are. We'll be back. It's 21 minutes past the hour. I want to rant about this just a little bit more, and then we'll pick up your phone calls. So stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Okay, we've got Jared Kushner taking $90 million. Now, just think for a minute how much money $90 million is. If somebody came to you and said, hey, here's $90 million, put it in your savings account. How would that change your life? So Jared Kushner has taken, since he's been in the White House, has taken $90 million through a Cayman Islands group. We don't know which foreign government this is or which foreign person. We have no idea. But, here it is, $90 million. And then on top of that, Jared Kushner, went over to the Middle East to beg for $1 billion because he made this stupid purchase at 666 Fifth Avenue after his father went to prison. One of his mentors, the New Yorker, I believe it was, maybe Vanity Fair, did just a remarkable deep dive into this. Maybe, I don't know, a year ago or thereabouts. We talked about it on this program, so I'm doing this from memory here. But basically what they pointed out was that this mentor of Jared Kushner said, and this was, a few years back, after, maybe 8-10 years back, after his dad went to jail. And this person said, you need to rehabilitate the family name. You need to rehabilitate your own image because your father was a con man and a grifter, and he's now in prison for it. So but you have inherited the family company, so you've got to do something. So here are the suggestions. Number one, buy a high-profile office building in New York so you can start having high visibility. Number two, buy a newspaper in New York so you can start seeding favorable stories about yourself and your business. And number three, marry a high-profile, wealthy woman who will look good on your arm, basically. And Kushner then followed that advice. He bought 666 Fifth Avenue. He bought, I believe it's called the New York Observer. He bought a newspaper in New York. He still owns it, as far as I know. And he married Ivanka Trump. All three of these things as a way of rehabilitating his image. And if you saw that interview with him with Axios on HBO, it was shocking what a just cold-blooded man this guy is. No affect, no emotion, sitting there talking like, you know, hey, I'm a billionaire and you're not. You know, how dare you ask me questions and things like that. So you got Kushner. And then you've got Trump. Trump coming out now saying, yeah, foreign governments helping out, no problem. Well, you know, we used to call this treason. Back when John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were running against each other in the election of 1800, one of Adams' big attacks on Jefferson was that Jefferson had spent 4 years, I believe it was, in France as the U.S. envoy to Paris, had spoken fluent French since he was a teenager, and had, you know, affection for the French. And, you know, and of course, there were people who were attacking John Adams because before the Revolutionary War, he had defended a British soldier who had killed several Americans. So, I mean, you know, we have a long history of saying this is not a good thing. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat from New York, he's the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, all the Democrats. He says it is a shocking statement, accepting assistance from a hostile foreign power like Russia. It is treasonous behavior. Trump says all the members of Congress do it. No, all the members of Congress don't do it. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, none of the members of Congress do this. Although apparently Mitch McConnell is just fine with this. You know, hey, you know, Russian oligarchs, please build aluminum factories in Kentucky so I can get reelected. And that's actually what's going on right now. But Donald Trump has basically said yesterday in his interview with Stephanopoulos, and this is a guy who has, keep in mind, no morals. He's a hustler. He's a grifter. He's a con man. He basically, and now, I mean, he's even stiffing police departments. This from the Center for Public Integrity. When the Lebanon City Hall sent Trump's campaign a $16,000 invoice for police and other public safety costs associated with his campaign event, Trump didn't respond. Trump's campaign likewise ignored Lebanon officials' follow-up reminders to cover the sum, one rich enough to fund the entire police force for nearly 2 days in this modest city of 21,000 between Dayton and Cincinnati. At least 9 other city governments are still waiting for Trump to pay public safety-related invoices that they've sent his presidential campaign. A grifter and a con man, and he has just put the White House up for sale. He has said, hey, China, you know, help me out, I'll help you out. Hey, Saudi Arabia, help me out, I'll help. Hey, North Korea, Kim, you know, you got great hackers. Get into Joe Biden's accounts. Get into Bernie and Elizabeth's accounts. Tell me what's going on. I'll help you out.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And what's Mitch McConnell's response? The House has passed legislation to block and ban this and increase our election security, and McConnell refuses to bring it up in the Senate. So where else do you have an opportunity to call a talk show for a full hour? I mean, you know, you can call anytime. Obviously, you can't call for the hour, but you can call anytime during the hour for a full hour and talk to one of the two, you know, Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Mark Pocan. We did it for 11 years with Senator Sanders. In fact, we started when he was Congressman Sanders. Where else do you have an opportunity to actually call one of the leading members of Congress, the leaders of the whole Progressive Caucus, the largest or second largest caucus in the Democratic Party? When else do you have where else do you have the opportunity to call and say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I like this legislation. What's your opinion on that? What's really going on behind the scenes? You know, unfiltered, you know, it's just straightforward. Well, not very many places. We do it on this show. We've always done it on this show since basically the first year of this program when Bernie started out with us. And we're very proud to do that on this program, to provide a national town hall to genuinely progressive candidates. If you like that, if you find that of value, among all the other things that we talk about on this program, from my rants to, you know, people like Richard Wolff and whatnot, Please support our program, support Free Speech TV. Call now, 877-378-8669. We are still way behind in our fundraising drive. We're up to maybe 35% of what we need, where we need to be as of this point. And, you know, we're slowly getting there, and a number of people have been calling, and I thank you so much if you called in yesterday or the day, well, anytime in the last, couple of weeks. Thank you. And if you haven't called yet, and literally $5 is a big deal. If you've never contributed to Free Speech TV, you get a regular monthly newsletter and email that just tells you what's going on Free Speech TV, and you're literally helping support this network stay on the air. It costs money to run a television network. We're not going to billionaires and we're not going to corporations for that money, and so we have to have your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help keep Free Speech TV on the air, help keep this program on Free Speech TV. It really it won't happen without your support. And, if we keep having these terrible fundraising numbers like in the last couple of days we've been within 10% of hitting our goals. But the previous week we were at 5 or 10% of our goals. I mean, it was just downright scary. And now we've got to overcome that. We've got to make that back up. And we really, really need your help right now. So please, if you support this program, if you care about this show, if you care about Free Speech TV, call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. You can also donate at freespeech.org. We have some premiums. With a $20 one-time gift, you get the Trump toilet paper, a roll of Trump toilet paper. How cool is that? With a $50 gift, you get the Trump toilet brush and stand. This is incredible stuff. With a $60 gift, you get both, right? If you bought them one at a time, they'd be $70, but with a $60 gift, you get both the toilet paper and the stand, and the brush with the stand. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With a $20 a month gift, that's a commitment for at least a year to say, yes, every month, just ding my credit card for $20. And with that contribution, and these are pretty important contributions also, these regular recurring contributions, because it helps Free Speech TV, budget. With that gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, you get the stainless steel water bottle with Democracy Starts With You on it, and the tote bag with a $30 a month commitment for at least a year. With a $500 gift, we're going to do a virtual meet and greet. It'll be just us. We're not going to be broadcasting this. We're not going to be recording it. I mean, it's just going to be an opportunity to talk. It'll be on the internet, and we're going to have a good time. We've done these before, a little less high profile than talking like this, and it's fascinating. With that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come hang out with me in person. You can come here to Portland anytime. We schedule these things a couple times a month, maybe every 2-3 weeks. Typically 4, 5, 6 people come, bring a spouse or a friend, or some people have brought their kids. It's been interesting. It's been fascinating. The people that I meet, who are regular viewers of this program here on Free Speech TV, just some wonderful people. And you'll get to meet a few other great people who are also $1,000 donors. Or if you're going to be in Philadelphia for the Netroots Nation, or if you live in the area, I'll be there on July 12th. And we'll be doing our show live from Philadelphia, from Netroots Nation, from the Free Speech TV booth there. And we'll have a little cocktail party on the 12th. So we'll have that meet and greet. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
So years ago, Stuart Pym, a biologist, introduced me to the concept of the high interrelatedness of different biological systems. For example, in the Pacific Northwest, there are forests that are having a problem because they're lacking iodine. Where do they get their iodine from? They used to get it from salmon spawning up the rivers, being eaten by bears who would then poop the iodine in the woods, literally, and feed the trees. And when the bears are hunted out or the salmon stop running, the trees start dying. Well, it turns out something very, very similar to that has
you
been
can find
going
the
on
Thom
in
Hartmann
Africa
Program
with
on
hippos.
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Gathering silk in the fields, and then welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just a quick heads up, by the way. I'm on book tour this month. I was in D.C. and L.A. We did Portland last night. It was a great event, and thank you so much if you're listening and you're one of the people who showed up. It was so nice to meet so many great people. Looked to me like there were a couple hundred people there. I will be in Los Angeles on Saturday, June 22nd. This is part of the at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is part of the KPFK Speaker Series. Stephanie Miller is going to join me. I'm going to be talking about the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment. The details for all of this stuff, by the way, are at thomhartmann.com. With links to where you can sign up or get tickets and things like that. This is that's June 22nd, Saturday. On Sunday, June 23rd, the next day, I'll be in Seattle at 7:30 at Town Hall. Now, and this is with the LA Bay Book Company supplying books. Now, initially they had booked a smaller room that held, I think, 250 people, and it sold out very, very quickly. And so a lot of people called and were told, sorry, it's already sold out. But the fact of the matter is that they then, once that sold out, they said, oh, well, let's book the larger hall that'll hold 1,400 people. And that's, I think they've sold about 1,000 tickets there, but there's still a couple hundred tickets available. So for Seattle, that's June 23rd at 7:30 p.m. On Tuesday, June 25th, I'll be in San Francisco at the First Church on Channing Way in Berkeley. And again, there's the links to, and this is in collaboration and cooperation with our affiliate in San Francisco, AM 910. We'll be in San Francisco 7 p.m. at the First Church on the 25th of June. And then on the 28th of June, I'll be at Frugal Muse in the Chestnut Court Shopping Center. That's a bookstore in Chicago, in Darien, actually, Illinois, in collaboration with our station WCPT. On June 29th in Minneapolis at 7 p.m. at Common Good Books on Snelling Avenue in St. Paul, and Friday, July 12th in Philadelphia at Netroots Nation. So that's what's coming up. And if you want any information, if any of that stokes your curiosity, you can check it all out at thomhartmann.com. But I want to get back to Donald Trump selling out his country. This is, in fact, Mark Sumner, who is just one of the great minds. I mean, this guy writes for Daily Kos, and he's brilliant. And the headline says it all. Trump explains why selling out the country is totally okay, with extra special lies on top. And, he points out that, Trump is basically saying, I mean, he just put up a big sign saying the White House is here for sale. It's just, hey, help us out. Send us some dirt on our opponents, do some hacking, whatever you can find, make some stuff up, start flooding, get a bot factory to start flooding Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And what is Mitch McConnell's response to this? This is nuts. Mitch McConnell is refusing to allow the Senate to proceed on several election security bills that could help, that could secure this country. First of all, there's the Secure Elections Act, which is sponsored by Senator James Lankford. He's a Republican from Oklahoma, and Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, the Democrat, that would toughen voting systems by enabling federal intelligence services and state election officials to more easily share cyber information. In other words, let's cooperate with our allies to find out who is hacking our elections. We don't want another president who was put there by a foreign government. 5 states right now, Delaware, Georgia, Louisiana, New Jersey, and South Carolina, they can't even audit their own election results because they're using these ancient Windows-based voting machines. There's another piece of legislation before the Senate, again sponsored by both Republicans and Democrats, that would make it a crime to hack voting systems. I didn't know it wasn't a crime. And but Roy Blunt of Missouri, the senior Republican in the Senate, says passage is unlikely. The Election Security Act, sponsored by Democrats in the House and Senate, would make $1 billion in grants available and mandate other safeguards. This is money that would help states secure their elections. But apparently, Donald Trump, apparently Mitch McConnell either thinks it's a great thing that foreign countries can hack our election infrastructure because they tend to want to elect Republicans because Republicans will, commit treason on their behalf, give them what they want. McConnell is refusing to have any of these pieces of legislation come up for a vote. This is, Trump just came right out and said, yep, the White House is for sale. Hey, Russia, China, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, Israel, pick your country that has a leader who is a hard right leader who has tried to completely, embrace Donald Trump. The Philippines, Brazil. I mean, pick your country. Any one of them now might be bringing us our next president. This is mind-boggling. Will in Salem, Oregon. Hey, Will, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, how you doing? The thing with this freak in the White House, that really, it's really basically, it pounds my head every day. Is that it reminds me of the book that you talk about a lot.
They thought they were free. Yeah.
Yeah, and where the corn is over your head. I think the corn is over our head. It's there now, and I understand the trepidation with the Democrats not wanting to impeach now, but I think if they don't do it now, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
Because his power is growing in way. The waves are just rolling too much.
Well, and his power is literally growing every day that the Senate appoints another right-wing judge. And that's all they're doing. Mitch McConnell will gavel the Senate into session. They'll pass a couple of judges, and then he'll say, "Okay, that's it. Let's go have lunch." And that's the end of it. I mean, they literally are not considering any legislation. It's insane, Will.
Yeah. I really think that we are at the midnight hour here, and they
Yes.
they got to impeach this guy. At least try to get this guy outed as the criminal he is,
And expose his crimes. I mean, he may well be the first president in the history of the United States to go to prison after he leaves the White House. Nancy Pelosi has raised the possibility of that twice now, and it's obviously got Donald Trump freaked out. And I think that's what needs to happen. Will, thank you for the call. Spot on. Russ in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Russ, what's up?
Yeah, Tom, it will come as a surprise to many of Trump's supporters, but we actually do have laws in this country, and one of them is U.S. Code 30121, prohibition. It shall be unlawful for a foreign national, not foreign government, a foreign national directly or indirectly to make a contribution or donation of money or other thing of value, or to make an express or implied promise to make a contribution or donation in connection with a federal, state, or local election.
Wow.
That is how
Russ,
the law reads.
may I ask you a favor? If possible, could you copy either that text or a link to the source of that text? Could you please tweet that to me?
I don't do Twitter, but if you'll give me an actual email address, I can.
I can't do that on the air, Russ. But we'll track it down. Now that I know exactly what it says and where it is, I'll track it down.
Just do a Google search on, the text of U.S. Code 30121, and you'll find it.
Okay, 30121. Got it.
I also wanted to say I agree with you that this is treason. At the very least, it's the declaration of an intent to violate a federal law, and if people need to call their member of the House of Representatives, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you are a patriotic American, you need to call your member of the House and tell them to get on board with the impeachment of this monster.
Yeah.
The only reason Nancy Pelosi is not coming out for impeachment right now is she does not have what they call the whip count. She doesn't have the votes in her caucus. And people need to get in touch with a member of the House and tell them to get behind the move to convene a inquiry of impeachment
That's
in
right.
the House Judiciary.
And what she knows, Russ, and what I know you know, is that the reason she doesn't have those votes is because we haven't had the public hearings. And now we've got, okay, Hope Hicks is going to testify, but only behind closed doors. Donald Trump Jr. testified, but only behind closed doors. If it doesn't happen on television, it doesn't happen. I mean, that's basically what's real in America right now. Donald Trump knows that. He was groomed and trained and coached for years, for a decade, by NBC, by some of the very best people in the business on how to do reality television. And he is using that skill set now that he acquired doing that to inflict fascism on the United States from the White House. It is nuts. Russ, I got to move along, but thank you for the call, and thanks for the heads up on U.S. Code 30121. Tim in Beaverton, Oregon. Hey, Tim, what's up?
Yeah, what I find ironic, and the people that really understand, is that the monster, that guy's been in office for 2.5 years. He hasn't been held accountable for basically anything. So why should he be held accountable for what he said yesterday?
Well, and I think right now the reason why Mike Flynn just dumped his lawyers and went with this Fox News lawyer who's selling Trump campaign stuff on her website, and and has called Mueller and his fellow prosecutors, terrible names. I think the reason Mike Flynn has done that is that the word got from Trump to Flynn, just as I think it did to Manafort, hang on and I will pardon you. And, Trump is using pardons, and that's one of the things that that's one of the 10 points that Mueller makes about obstruction of justice, that he was dangling pardons. It is so clear that this guy is committing treason right in front of us and has been doing so for 2.5 years. Tim, thank you for the call. Joanne in Middletown, Connecticut. Hey, Joanne.
Hi. I am very frustrated because I think Senator Warren had it right from the beginning. They don't need any other information. It's right there, and they need to move to impeach.
Yes.
And I did.
Well, this is what Justin Amash, the Republican from Michigan, is saying, is that if you read the Mueller report, you've got to impeach Trump. This is a Republican.
And I think he's in this constant, chronic obstruction mode.
Yeah.
It's chronic at this point.
Yeah.
And people are going to become apathetic. And if anything, by not impeaching him, it's going to hurt the Democrats, because he's going to say, well, they didn't impeach me because they couldn't.
Yeah. Well, it's more than just it's going to hurt the Democrats.
They need to do this, and I'm just really frustrated about it.
Yeah, it's more than it's just that he's going to hurt the Democrats. He is hurting our republic. He is, and he is not just hurting our republic. He is, the United States, the President of the United States, the bully pulpit he holds, is a role model for democracies around the world.
Yes.
And, this is nuts. Joanne, thank you for the call. He is basically telling, all these right-wing guys, Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, and Duterte in the Philippines, and Erdogan in Turkey, and, the guy in Poland, and what's his name, and Fidesz in Hungary. Yeah, it's just fine. It's just fine.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And frankly, he's telling this to all of the right-wing parties in all of the fully developed European democracies. Oh, treason, it's a great thing. This is dangerous. And welcome back. Bernie in Gig Harbor, Washington. Hey, Bernie, what's on your mind? Bernie, listening on 91.3 FM? I am not hearing Bernie. Let's try Blaine in Thousand Oaks, California, listening on KPFK. Blaine, can you hear me?
Tom, you're my hero.
Thank you.
I won't take up much of your time. Just wanted to pass along a quick update. This just in from the real fake news desk. In yet another unprecedented move, President Trump has just replaced his entire staff with Russian spies and oligarchs. When asked for comment, Nancy Pelosi warned of not rushing into any moves to initiate proceedings that may be misinterpreted as trying to remove the president.
Right.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Blaine. I get it. It's tongue in cheek, but it's painful. It's just painful. Beth in Cypress, California. Beth, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. What's on my mind is tag I'm it. I do not and will not buy aluminum drink containers, specifically from Kentucky, manufacturing for Mitch McConnell's pet Russian oligarch.
Yeah. Well, the factory's not up yet. They'll probably start building it next year, just in time for the election.
And glass containers, and will continue not to buy aluminum. In a study conducted in the early 1990s, it caused my then elderly father to have memory lapses. The family stopped using aluminum containers and cooking pots, and his memory improved. He passed away in 1999. Side note, perhaps that is why the current president cannot distinguish between the words orange and original. Aluminum may have caused his senior dementia. And I will continue to what I'm doing, and I will not have anything to do with any money being earned by Mitch McConnell. Yeah. His monies have to dry up.
Yeah,
and I will have nothing to do with it.
I get it, Beth. Thank you very much for the call. And yes, there was, back, 20, 30 years ago, this concern that aluminum cookware and aluminum might be implicated in Alzheimer's, that it might cause neurofibrillator tangles. I think that by and large, we have found that that's not the case, that there's some sort of an inflammatory mechanism that has to do with Alzheimer's rather than aluminum. But, I'm still not a fan of ingesting any kind of, metal that's not, outside of iron. And even iron, it can be toxic to men. So, beware, as it were, be careful. Mac in Somerville, South Carolina. Hey, Mac, what's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to say that this entire Trump regime needs to be impeached, and Nancy Pelosi need to break the bear bottle, and let's get this thing started. And we could have used Trump's help in Vietnam. We don't need him to serve now to screw our country up. We needed him in Vietnam back in '68. That's when we needed him. He had a foot pain. He couldn't make it. Shame on him.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. Amen. Mac, thanks a lot for the call. Yeah, Corporal Bonespurs, I think, is one of our members of the Senate who is a vet, or the House called him that. Remember who that was, Sean? Who, somebody, Tammy Duckworth comes to mind. I think it might have been Tammy Duckworth, who lost both legs, as I recall, in Iraq. Maybe it was Afghanistan. But this man is not a patriot. He's not even a decent human being. We'll be back. I may be coming to your city soon on our book tour for The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. I'll be in New York, Washington, D.C., Portland, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Here I come. More information is available at thomhartmann.com. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. This is mind-boggling. 5 municipal public safety bills, that is invoices, have been sent to the Trump campaign. When the Trump campaign comes to town for a rally, and this is all prior to the elections, right? Trump campaign comes to town for a rally. They contract with the local police for security, and they have to pay them. Green Bay, Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Tucson, Arizona, Burlington, Vermont, and Spokane, Washington have all sent invoices back in 2016, before the election, to the Trump campaign. Trump's refusing to pay them. And now you've got 9 other city governments, Mesa, Arizona, Erie, Pennsylvania, and a bunch of others who, have invoiced the Trump campaign a total of $841,000. Trump is stiffing them. He's stiffing them. And here is, this is 52 U.S. Code 30121, and a tip of the hat to the caller who shared this with us earlier. This is the actual United States law that Donald Trump is suggesting that members of Congress routinely violate. No, they don't. And that he obviously has been violating since the election, and is saying he's going to continue to violate. It shall be unlawful for a foreign national. I said earlier I wasn't sure if it was a nation or an individual. It's both. A foreign national, directly or indirectly. You can't route it through a lawyer. You can't route it through the Caymans like they are now giving $90 million to Jared Kushner. or $1 billion to Jared Kushner through the Middle East, directly or indirectly to make a contribution or donation of money or other thing of value, or to make an express or implied promise to make a contribution or donation in connection with a federal, state, or local election. B, a contribution or donation to a committee or a political party. Again, foreign nationals can't do this. C, a foreign national may not make an expenditure, independent expenditure, or disbursement for an electioneering communication. Or, number 2, it is unlawful for a foreign national, directly or indirectly, to or a person to solicit. It is illegal for a person, now that would be Trump, right, or anybody on his campaign, to solicit, accept, or receive a contribution or donation. And keep in mind, they're talking about anything of value. Hillary Clinton's emails were definitely a thing of value. Or donation described in subparagraph A or B from a foreign national. Amazing. Amazing. Lawrence in St. Paul, Minnesota, listening on AM 950. Lawrence, what's up?
Hey, Tom, I called you 6 months ago. This is just a quick 15-second aside before I get to my real point. Called you up maybe back in January or something, talking about how Elaine Chao was mixed up in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Is the primary reason why Mitch McConnell is not doing something. And now it's come to fruition. We see her name being displayed in the media. That's just a 15-second aside. What I really want to say is we've been talking about Trump, you, me, liberal, progressive radio, TV. We've been talking about this guy for 2 years now. And I both the question to you. Maybe you can answer it. Who are the biggest violators of the Constitution? Is it Trump or is it the Democrats? I'll say this. In my opinion, the Democrats are the bigger violators of the Constitution, because you, me, and everybody progressive, we're not going to sit idly by and watch the Constitution be demoralized. Here, and let me tell you something. I hope Nancy Pelosi is listening. I know she listens. The Constitution does not say that you have to have overwhelming evidence to vote for impeachment. The Constitution doesn't say that. It says that it is designed to put a check on the executive branch by the judiciary.
Right.
It doesn't say anywhere in the Constitution we must have overwhelming evidence.
No, it says high crimes and misdemeanors, which is very, very vague, intentionally vague.
Yeah, so I'll go off the air, and I want to listen to your take on what I just said. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, well, thank you, Lawrence. No, it's spot on. I mean, you nailed it. I wouldn't say that the Democrats are the larger violators of the Constitution, although the Constitution explicitly says, for example, emoluments. You can't make money off foreign governments. Trump is making money off foreign governments as president. You can't do that. It's in the Constitution. This is not even part of the U.S. law. It is the Constitution. He's violating that. And then elsewhere in the Constitution, it says, and if a president commits high crimes and misdemeanors, obviously that's one of them, then Congress may impeach him. It doesn't say shall, it says may. But I would say that, we need to get this show on the road. Now, to her credit, Nancy Pelosi is pushing for hearings, but Trump is fighting every step of the way.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you. So where else do you have an opportunity to call a talk show for a full hour? I mean, you can call anytime. Obviously, you can't call for the hour, but you can call anytime during the hour for a full hour and talk to one of the two, Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Mark Pocan. We did it for 11 years with Senator Sanders. In fact, we started when he was Congressman Sanders. Where else do you have an opportunity to actually call one of the leading members of Congress, the leaders of the whole Progressive Caucus, the largest or second largest caucus in the Democratic Party? When else do you have where else do you have the opportunity to call and say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I like this legislation. What's your opinion on that? What's really going on behind the scenes? Unfiltered, it's just straightforward. Well, not very many places. We do it on this show. We've always done it on this show since basically the first year of this program when Bernie started out with us. And we're very proud to do that on this program, to provide a national town hall to genuinely progressive candidates. If you like that, if you find that of value, among all the other things that we talk about on this program, from my rants to people like Richard Wolff and whatnot, please support our program, support Free Speech TV. Call now, 877-378-8669. We are still way behind in our fundraising drive. We're up to maybe 30-35% of what we need, where we need to be as of this point. And, we're slowly getting there, and a number of people have been calling, and I thank you so much if you called in yesterday or the day, well, anytime in the last, couple of weeks. Thank you. And if you haven't called yet, and literally $5 is a big deal. If you've never contributed to Free Speech TV, you get a regular monthly newsletter and email that just tells you what's going on Free Speech TV, and you're literally helping support this network stay on the air. It costs money to run a television network. We're not going to billionaires and we're not going to corporations for that money, and so we have to have your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help keep Free Speech TV on the air, help keep this program on Free Speech TV. It really it won't happen without your support. And, if we keep having these terrible fundraising numbers like in the last couple of days we've been within 10% of hitting our goals. But the previous week we were at 5 or 10% of our goals. I mean, it was just downright scary. And now we've got to overcome that. We've got to make that back up. And we really, really need your help right now. So please, if you support this program, if you care about this show, if you care about Free Speech TV, call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. You can also donate at freespeech.org. We have some premiums. With a $20 one-time gift, you get the Trump toilet paper, a roll of Trump toilet paper. How cool is that? With a $50 gift, you get the Trump toilet brush and stand. This is incredible stuff. With a $60 gift, you get both, right? If you bought them one at a time, they'd be $70, but with a $60 gift, you get both the toilet paper and the stand, and the brush with the stand. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With a $20 a month gift, that's a commitment for at least a year to say, yes, every month, just ding my credit card for $20. And with that contribution, And these are pretty important contributions also, these regular recurring contributions, because it helps Free Speech TV, budget. With that gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, you get the stainless steel water bottle with Democracy Starts With You on it, and the tote bag with a $30 a month commitment for at least a year. With a $500 gift, we're going to do a virtual meet and greet. It'll be just us. We're not going to be broadcasting this. We're not going to be recording it. I mean, it's just going to be an opportunity to talk. It'll be on the internet, and we're going to have a good time. We've done these before, a little less high profile than talking like this, and it's fascinating. With $1,000, that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come hang out with me in person. You can come here to Portland anytime. We schedule these things a couple times a month, well, maybe every 2-3 weeks. Typically, 4, 5, 6 people come, bring a spouse or a friend, or some people have brought their kids. It's been interesting. It's been fascinating. The people that I meet, who are regular viewers of this program here on Free Speech TV, just some wonderful people. And you'll get to meet a few other great people who are also $1,000 donors. Or if you're going to be in Philadelphia for the Netroots Nation, or if you live in the area, I'll be there on July 12th. And we'll be doing our show live from Philadelphia, from Netroots Nation, from the Free Speech TV booth there. And we'll have a little cocktail party on the 12th. So we'll have that meet and greet. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Attend either conference. It's the Mueller Report.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. We now know that wages have finally reached the point where they're almost where they were in the late 70s before we were, Reaganism and giant tax cuts were inflicted upon us. The top tax rate at that point in time was 74%. Just a decade earlier in the 60s, it had been 91%, going all the way back to the 1930s where FDR set it. And what does this have to do with inequality? How does this influence an economy? The CNBC just released a new poll that shows that the majority of millionaires and multimillionaires support Elizabeth Warren's suggested wealth tax, or 2% levy on wealth of more than 50 million, 3% on wealth over 1 billion. I've been saying forever we need to roll back not just the Trump tax cuts and the Bush tax cuts, but the Reagan tax cuts. But this from CNBC, fully 60% of millionaires support Warren's plan for taxing the wealth of those who have more than $50 million in assets. 88% of Democrats, 62% of independents, 36% of Republicans, but the majority of billionaires. So what does this mean? How does this work? What do taxes have to do with the average economy, and how do they affect your wages? Dr. Richard Wolff is with us, the economist and co-founder of Democracy at Work, the author most recently of Capitalism's Crisis Deepens, Essays on the Global Economic Meltdown. DemocracyAtWork.info is the website, and rdwolf with 2 Fs.com, his other website. You can tweet him at Prof. Wolf, as in Professor Wolf. Professor Wolf, welcome back.
Thank you, Tom. Glad to be here.
So you heard my setup. You want to go off on it?
Sure. 2 things that immediately come to mind. The staggering reality, at least it staggers me, that here in the United States, when we had the high tax rates coming out of the Great Depression in the 90s because of what Roosevelt did, and even into the 80s, 70s, 60s, for many decades after that, those early decades after World War II with the high tax rates had generally lower unemployment than we've had since and faster economic growth. So the whole idea that you needed to cut the taxes on corporations and the rich to get the economy to work better, the proof of the pudding has been exactly the opposite. As the taxes went down on corporations and the rich, economic growth slowed, unemployment became a more serious problem, and the inequality that these tax cuts produced took such extreme forms that it's now an issue so broadly understood in the American public that socialism has returned as a topic that everybody has to talk about and contend with. The ironies of all of this, the craziness of all of this, speaks to the ability of at least a segment of the American community being able to be lined up behind tax cuts, no matter how stark the evidence that they have been an engine of inequality and economic decay.
I've told two stories on this program relative to this. One is back in the 70s, my business partner, Terry O'Connor, and I had a very successful business for a couple of years. It was making a lot of money. And I remember when our CPA sat us down and said, you guys are going to hit a 50% tax bracket. Now, at this point in time, the top was 91%. But he says, you guys are going to hit the 50% tax bracket. You really shouldn't be taking this much money out of the company. You should be expanding your company. And so we decided to do that. We hired 3 new people. We rolled out a new line of products. It was an herbal tea company. We rolled out a line of potpourris. And I think, CEOs all over the country were doing the same thing. Average CEO pay was only 30 times the worker pay at that time. That's number one. And then number two, and I'd love to hear you comment on both of these. Number two is, it seems to me as an employer, I've been an employer for the last 50 years, that generally speaking, employers hire people based on take-home pay, knowing that, and I mean this broadly. This is not how generally I think about it, but if an employer knows that somebody will do a particular job for, let's say, $30,000 after taxes at the end of the year, then they hire them for whatever, say it ends up being $38,000 because there's going to be $8,000 in taxes. But if you reduce the taxes on working people, then the employer goes, hey, now they've got more take-home pay, but I know they'll work for less, so over time they will actually lower their wages. Whereas if you raise the taxes on working people, employers know that, hey, people can't live anymore. We're going to have to raise their wages. Now, that relationship, which is the reverse of what the Republicans are peddling, is also the reverse of how it works with very rich people. Very rich people, the amount of money that they take out of the company doesn't matter, right? It's not because nobody is controlling their wages. They're the ones who can define their wages. What do you think about those things?
I think those are all actually very correct, very, supported by economic science as much as we dare to call ourselves a science. I think the bottom line, though, is that this is mostly a political gambit, that the individualism in the American scene particularly seems to tell a sizable number of our people that anything you do to enhance your own individual situation is okay. I mean, assuming you don't break the law, is okay. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to think about the secondary consequences, that there's some magic in the world, let's call it the invisible hand, that will make it all okay for you to look out for number one no matter what. And so when it comes to taxes, we produce craziness. The corporations always want a tax cut. They'll make up whatever argument you want. I mean, we're about to see Mr. Trump give Mr. Laffer, aptly named, an award. The man wrote an economics argument that said if you cut taxes, it'll be so wonderful for the economy that we'll hire so many more people and we'll do so much more business that we'll get the taxes back. And so a tax cut on corporations and the rich really doesn't impact the revenues of the government, so nobody need to be worried about it. We don't have to worry that we'll have to pick up the tax, and we don't have to worry about cut services because the tax cuts pay for themselves. For 30 years, this nonsense has been peddled. It has never worked. That doesn't matter. It continues to be peddled, and it's about to get an award. That's because we let corporations and the rich believe that getting something better for them won't have secondary consequences of the sort you just listed. But they always have, and then we are all surprised, A, that it happened, and then in shock, we watch the corporations and the rich keep peddling the same arguments, keep getting the same tax cuts. I mean, even as I admire the millionaires who said that Elizabeth Warren is right, you really have to sort of take a step back and recognize that they are the beneficiaries of all of these tax cuts. There is not a coincidence that the tax cuts, step by step, are in line with the growing inequality of the United States. Those two things are very closely interrelated. They've taken the money that they don't pay in taxes, the corporates, the CEOs and so on, and given themselves the enormous pay packages, which is why that statistic you gave, 30-to-1 was the CEO to the average worker ratio back in the 60s and 70s, and it's closer to 3-to-1, 300-to-1 now. That's where the tax cuts went. They didn't go to economic growth. They didn't go to stimulate investment. They went to create a class of folks at the top who are out of control in their wealth hunting, and this inequality is fostered by this logic that you can do these things and it won't have secondary consequences. They'll just be the benefits of tax cuts without all the costs that they inevitably bring with them.
Yeah. Now, back during the Eisenhower administration, correct me if your information conflicts with mine, but because I'm doing this from memory, but I wrote about this back in 2014 in a book called Rebooting the American Dream. My recollection is that during the Eisenhower administration, 1/3 of total federal revenues, money coming into the government, was in the form of corporate taxes. And today it's about 6%.
That's right.
And of course, back during the Eisenhower administration, Republican President Dwight Eisenhower was just very, very happy with a 91% top tax rate. And now the top tax rate, is somewhere between 21% and 30%, depending on what kind of corporate structure and how you're taking your money out and all that kind of stuff. In your opinion, what are appropriate tax rates? The thing that I've noticed is it seems that in countries where the top tax rate, and we're talking about taxes on millionaires and billionaires, not working people, the top tax rate is over 50%. It tends to stabilize the economy and stabilize the labor market. Where it's under 50%, it tends to be unstable. Now, that's, it's just my observation. What do you think? Where should it be, both the individual tax rates and the corporate tax rates?
Well, before I answer, let me summarize what you just said because it's really important for people to get it. Over the last 40 to 50 years, the tax structure at the federal level has been summarized by these two movements. The burden of taxation on corporations and business has been drastically reduced in favor of taxes on individuals. And among individuals, the burden of taxation has been reduced mostly for those at the top and shifted to those in the middle at the bottom. And you put those two things together, you have the economic history of the United States in the last 40 years and the explanation for the absurd inequality that is now so gross as to overshadow almost everything else about the economy as a consequence of all of that. So my first reaction, like many others, is why in the world haven't we long ago recognized the absurd consequences and reversed the process? Let's go back to the tax levels of the 60s and the 50s, because the irony is that we're not talking about confiscatory taxes. We're not talking about Russia or China or communism or anything like that. We're talking about American history, what our previous leaders, Republican and Democrat, thought was a reasonable amount of taxes. The basic idea always being you tax those most able to pay. A simple principle, directly applicable. It could be and should be done at all the levels. People should remember that if you think the federal taxes aren't fair, when you move to state and local, it's even grosser because the ability to pay criterion has virtually disappeared. So the opening gun of what I would say is a much more like the 50s and 60s level of taxes. And then beyond that, wealth taxes, which should have been part of the American scene, haven't been and are different from income taxes. And therein lies a whole nother dimension we ought to explore.
Yeah, and as far as I know, Elizabeth Warren is the only person talking about this, but I think it's great stuff. Professor Richard Wolff, thank you so much for your wisdom today. It's always a pleasure, and I always learn talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Look forward to the next time.
Me too.
Is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be back in just a moment with, more of the news of the day and your calls. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Where'd my mouse go? There it is. Robert in Grass Lake, Michigan. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind today?
Hey, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks for watching us on Free Speech.
Can you hear me?
Yep, just fine.
Great.
Can you hear me, by the way,
Hey,
Robert? Is my voice loud enough?
I can.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Everybody's talking today about Trump being treasonous. You know, he's been treasonous since when he asked for Russia to get in the elections. Nobody talks about Mitch McConnell being treasonous.
Yeah.
He cedes all the power that's reserved for the Congress to make checks on the executive to the executive, and this is just he's dismantling democracy as I watch, and it's stacking the judiciary. So it just goes, you know, against all the intentions of the founding fathers for this branch of government to get dismantled like that in favor of the other branch, which it's supposed to oversee.
I'm with you, Robert. I think Mitch McConnell should be impeached.
I absolutely believe that, and I don't know why nobody's made a mechanism to remove him, because you get Mitch out of there, maybe, I'm not saying it would happen, but maybe another Republican would step up into there and have some sense. Hey, well, yeah, maybe we should.
I think the whole party has sold out to the billionaires and Trumpism, Robert. I don't think you're going to find, you know, outside of Justin Amash, I don't know of a single Republican who is acting with any integrity whatsoever. They are just saying, hey, billionaires, keep crossing our palms with cash, and we'll keep on croaking your song.
I speak to so many people that just don't get it. They go, oh, well, I got a tax cut. When did you get a tax cut? You might have got a couple dollars, $100. Billionaires got paid, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and big corporations.
And then they steal it back through tariffs.
Yep.
So you've got a net loss.
Yeah, it's crazy. Robert, you said it very well. I want to get another call in before the break, but thank you for the call. Gloria in Shannon, North Carolina. Hey, Gloria, thanks for watching Free Speech TV, and please share with your friends the good news about Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Tom, I wanted to suggest something to give everybody a little pause to think about. I've got two words that Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats need to consider. Don Siegelman.
Yeah, he just got off probation yesterday.
Yeah, and if they keep letting the Republicans get away with the stuff they're doing without pushing back, and I think they should open an inquiry. It needs to be done, and they need to push as hard as they can. Nancy is demoralizing a lot of us Democrats sitting out here watching. We're so frustrated and disgusted with the whole thing. It's going to push some to not want to vote or not even think about voting, and that's bad for us.
Yeah.
But the situation with Don Siegelman, that whole thing was made up. Mm-hmm. And they
by Karl Rove.
Made it up, made up the laws and everything. But if they keep if the Democrats keep letting the Republicans get away with what they're doing, they won't even be able to breathe loud before they'll have be hauled in court for some reason or another that's more likely made up.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you, Gloria. I think that this is that they thought they were free moment, and I want to get into that, in fact, at the next hour. Gloria, thanks so much for the call, and thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. We'll be right back. It's 22 minutes past the hour. You know, every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, you know, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell the list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, you know, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. and you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, ThomHartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I wanted to, I am going to pick up your calls here, but in all probability right after the break at the bottom of the hour, so, it'll be another 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. But I wanted to dig back into Milton Mayer's brilliant book from the 1950s. Milton Mayer was a Chicago journalist. I think he was writing for The Sun. And he traveled over to Germany after World War II. He himself was Jewish. Traveled over to Germany after World War II to ask average, quote, good Germans, to ask average Germans, how could this have happened? Right? This is just right after the war. How could this have happened? And he interviewed a bricklayer, a baker, a college professor, and he had 10 people, and he basically spent a few months with each one of them. I think he was there a year and a half, or something like that. And I just want to share with you. These guys are long dead. Milton Mayer is long dead. But this is what these average Germans, these were not Nazis, not members of the Nazi Party, this is what they had to say. This separation of government from people, this is the college professor talking, this separation of government from people, this widening of the gap took place so gradually and so insensibly, each step disguised, perhaps not even intentionally, as a temporary emergency measure or associated with true patriotic allegiance or real social purposes. And all the crises and reforms, and real reforms too, so occupied the people that they didn't see the slow motion underneath of the whole process of government growing remoter and remoter. To live in this process is absolutely not to be able to notice it. Please, try to believe me. Unless one has such a greater degree of political awareness, acuity than most of us ever had the occasion to develop. Each step was so small, so inconsequential, so well explained, or on occasion regretted, that unless one were detached from the whole process from the beginning, unless one understood what the whole thing was in principle, what all those little measures that no patriotic German could resent must someday lead to, one no more saw it developing from day to day than a farmer in his field sees the corn growing. And one day, it's over his head, which is what, our caller earlier said to us. And he talks about, how uncertainty is a very important factor, and instead of decreasing as time goes on, it grows. Outside in the streets, the general community, everyone seems happy. You hear no protests, certainly you see none. You say, it's not so bad. Your friends, what do they say? They say, it's not so bad, you're seeing things, you're an alarmist. And you are an alarmist. You're saying this must lead to that, but you can't prove it. These are the beginnings, yes, but how do you know for sure? How do you know the end? How do you know or even surmise the end? I'll share the rest of this right after the break, and then we'll pick up your phone calls.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Are we there yet? Now that Donald Trump is asking foreign governments to help him win the election? Is this full-blown fascism? So where else do you have an opportunity to call a talk show for a full hour? I mean, you can call anytime. Obviously, you can't call for the hour, but you can call anytime during the hour for a full hour and talk to one of the two, Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Mark Pocan. We did it for 11 years with Senator Sanders. In fact, we started when he was Congressman Sanders. Where else do you have an opportunity to actually call one of the leading members of Congress, the leaders of the whole Progressive Caucus, the largest or second largest caucus in the Democratic Party? When else do you have where else do you have the opportunity to call and say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I like this legislation. What's your opinion on that? What's really going on behind the scenes? Unfiltered, it's just straightforward, Well, not very many places. We do it on this show. We've always done it on this show since basically the first year of this program when Bernie started out with us. And we're very proud to do that on this program, to provide a national town hall to genuinely progressive candidates. If you like that, if you find that of value, among all the other things that we talk about on this program, from my rants to people like Richard Wolff and whatnot, please support our program, support Free Speech TV. Call now, 877-378-8669. We are still way behind in our fundraising drive. We're up to maybe 30-35% of what we need, where we need to be as of this point. And we're slowly getting there, and a number of people have been calling, and I thank you so much if you called in yesterday or the day, well, anytime in the last couple of weeks. Thank you. And if you haven't called yet, and literally $5 is a big deal. If you've never contributed to Free Speech TV, you get a regular monthly newsletter and email that just tells you what's going on Free Speech TV, and you're literally helping support this network stay on the air. It costs money to run a television network. We're not going to billionaires and we're not going to corporations for that money, and so we have to have your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help keep Free Speech TV on the air, help keep this program on Free Speech TV. It really it won't happen without your support. And, if we keep having these terrible fundraising numbers like in the last couple of days we've been within 10% of hitting our goals. But the previous week we were at 5 or 10% of our goals. I mean, it was just downright scary. And now we've got to overcome that. We've got to make that back up. And we really, really need your help right now. So please, if you support this program, if you care about this show, if you care about Free Speech TV, call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. You can also donate at freespeech.org. We have some premiums. With a $20 one-time gift, you get the Trump toilet paper, a roll of Trump toilet paper. How cool is that? With a $50 gift, you get the Trump toilet brush and stand. This is incredible stuff. With a $60 gift, you get both, right? If you bought them one at a time, they'd be $70, but with a $60 gift, you get both the toilet paper and the stand, and the brush with the stand. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With a $20 a month gift, that's a commitment for at least a year to say, yes, every month, just ding my credit card for $20. And with that contribution, and these are pretty important contributions also, these regular recurring contributions, because it helps Free Speech TV, budget. With that gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, you get the stainless steel water bottle with Democracy Starts With You on it, and the tote bag with a $30 a month commitment for at least a year. With a $500 gift, we're going to do a virtual meet and greet. It'll be just us. We're not going to be broadcasting this. We're not going to be recording it. I mean, it's just going to be an opportunity to talk. It'll be on the internet, and we're going to have a good time. We've done these before, a little less high profile than talking like this, and it's fascinating. With $1,000, that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come hang out with me in person. You can come here to Portland anytime. We schedule these things a couple times a month, well, maybe every 2-3 weeks. Typically, 4, 5, 6 people come, bring a spouse or a friend, or some people have brought their kids. It's been interesting. It's been fascinating. The people that I meet, who are regular viewers of this program here on Free Speech TV, just some wonderful people. And you'll get to meet a few other great people who are also $1,000 donors. Or if you're going to be in Philadelphia for the Netroots Nation, or if you live in the area, I'll be there on July 12th. And we'll be doing our show live from Philadelphia, from Netroots Nation, from the Free Speech TV booth there. And we'll have a little cocktail party on the 12th. So we'll have that meet and greet. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I may be coming to your city soon on our book tour for The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. I'll be in New York, Washington, D.C., Portland, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Here I come. More information is available at thomhartmann.com. 22nd at 3 o'clock, I'll be in Los Angeles along with Stephanie Miller for my book tour on the hidden history, and it's part of the KPFK Speaker Series, so it's also a fundraiser for that station. On the 23rd in Seattle, I'll be at Town Hall at 7:30 p.m., and as of yesterday, there were still tickets available. On Tuesday, June 25th, I'll be in San Francisco, actually in Berkeley, on Channing Way at the First Church at 7 p.m. So check it out, and look forward to seeing you there. So let me just wrap up this little reading from They Thought They Were Free. This is Milton Mayer's iconic book, this just absolutely extraordinary book. And he's talking about being an alarmist. This is the college professor. He says, "You see," my colleague went on, "one doesn't see exactly where or how to move. Believe me, this is true. Each occasion is worse than the next, or than the last, but only a little worse. You wait for the next and the next. You wait for the one great shocking occasion, thinking that others, when such a shock comes, will join you in resisting somehow. You don't want to act or even talk alone. You don't want to go out of your way to make trouble. Why not? Well, you're not in the habit of doing it. And it's not just fear of standing alone that restrains you. It is also genuine uncertainty. Uncertainty is a very important factor. And instead of decreasing, keep in mind, this was a college professor who lived through the Nazi years, through World War II. A German college professor talking to a reporter, to Milton Mayer in his book, They Thought They Were Free. And outside in the streets, in the general community, everyone seems happy. One hears no protests, certainly sees none. You know, in France or Italy, maybe there's slogans against the government, but in Germany, outside the great cities, a little, but in the university community, in your own community, you speak privately to your colleagues, some of whom certainly must feel as you do, but what do they say? They say, it's not so bad, you're seeing things, you're an alarmist. And you are an alarmist. You are saying this must lead to that, but you can't prove it. These are the beginnings, yes, but how do you know for sure when you don't know the end? How do you know or even surmise the end? On the one hand, your enemies, the law, the regime, the party intimidate you. On the other hand, your colleagues poo-poo you as pessimistic or even neurotic. But the one great shocking occasion, when tens or hundreds of thousands will join you, never comes. That's the difficulty. If the last and worst act of the whole regime had come immediately after the first and the smallest, thousands, yes, millions would have been sufficiently shocked if, let us say, the gassing of the Jews in 43 had come immediately after the German firm stickers on the windows in non-Jewish shops in 33. But of course, that isn't how it happens. In between come all the hundreds of little steps, some of them imperceptible, each of them preparing you not to be shocked by the next. Step C isn't so much worse than step B, and you didn't make a stand at B, so why should you at step C? And then on to step D. And one day, too late, your principles, if you were ever sensible to them, all rush in upon you. The burden of self-deception. I think what he's describing here is what happened to Justin Amash, the Republican from Michigan. The burden of self-deception has grown too heavy, and some minor incident, in my case, it was my little boy, hardly more than a baby, saying, "Jews, swine." It collapses all at once, and you see that everything has changed, and changed completely under your nose. The world you live in, your nation, your people, it's not the world you were in at all. The forms are all there, all untouched, all reassuring, the houses, the shops, the jobs, the mealtimes, the visits, the concerts, the cinema, the holidays. But the spirit, which you never noticed, because you made the lifelong mistake of identifying it with the forms, is changed. And now you live in a world of hate and fear. And the people who hate and fear do not even know it themselves. When everyone is transformed, no one is transformed. And now you live in a system which rules without responsibility to law or even to God. Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free. So let's pick up your phone calls here. Steve in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Your previous caller was talking about wanting to impeach Mitch McConnell, the king of the tobacco companies for so many years. Of course, he's from Kentucky, but he does have the power. That's the problem with our Constitution, I think, a lot of times, is there's nothing in there but the granting of power to his position. He's over the House. He can keep the House from doing a lot of stuff.
You mean the Senate? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just this constant teeter-totter. And, you know, the Republicans think, you know, life sucked when Obama was in office. We Democrats think life really sucks now that Trump's in office. And it boils down to this: you always got the other guy to blame and nothing gets done.
Yeah.
And Mitch McConnell and all these very wealthy people, if it wasn't for millionaire lawyers, they wouldn't have any job at all. I read recently where Trump has access to 27 lawyers. Do we pay for that?
Yeah.
We pay for that.
Well,
so
some of it. I mean, you know, he's got some lawyers that are being paid for by his campaign committee, you know, who are defending him personally. But then also he's got lawyers in the White House that we pay for. Yeah.
So they sit there and they analyze word for word the semantics of the Constitution to where they can bend it and get away with it. And they probably work 10, 12 hours a day, every day of the week to do it, right?
Well, I'm not sure that they even care about the Constitution anymore. I mean, the Office of Special Counsel, which is not Mueller's office, this is a permanent office, you know, inside the executive branch of government. The Office of Special Counsel just came out and said that Kellyanne Conway is such a repeat offender of the Hatch Act, which, by the way, has going to prison as a violation. The Hatch Act says you may not use government property for political purposes. And over and over and over again, Kellyanne Conway, standing at the White House on government property, goes on national television and attacks Democrats or Democratic policies specifically in a way that is political. And to the point that the Office of Special Counsel has now said that she should be removed from federal office because she's a serial offender. You think that Donald Trump and his administration are going to do anything? They don't give a rat's ass about the law. They really don't.
Well, I think the thing that really bothers me the most is our forefathers who constructed the Constitution. They came from a country where they had a king, and they should have had a little bit more human knowledge about human nature, that when they made the Constitution, that they protected us from having another king, and I don't see where we're protected from that.
That's you know, ironically, Steve, that's why they came up with the Electoral College. I mean, if you read, I think it's Federalist, it's in the 40s, like 41, 43, something like maybe Federalist 45, where Hamilton talks about how the Electoral College, the electors don't have to vote for a president even if the people in their congressional district, you know, that they represent, or their state that they represent, did, if they think that that person is not morally fit to be president. The whole idea of the Electoral College was to have a college of wise elders who would help make sure that we never got a despot as a president. Obviously, it has failed. I mean, obviously, it's become a joke. It had failed probably within 40 years of the founding of the Republic. But that was the original idea. They were looking for some kind of a balance, and it's just not there. Steve, thank you for the call. David in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. What's on your mind, David?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Tom.
Sure.
On Twitter today, I found a video posted by an election integrity attorney named Jennifer Cohn, C-O-H-N.
Yes, I'm familiar with her. She's really good.
Yeah, she explains why Mitch McConnell's blocking legislation. There's one company, ES&S, who makes 44% of all the electronic voting machines in the country. And they've come up with a system that gives the veneer of a paper backup. But really, it has no transparency. It's completely opaque. And it's going into service. It's been in New York since 2018. And it's being promoted all over. And in effect, Senator Wyden's legislation would prevent this.
Right.
And that's why he's blocking any kind of security legislation for our elections. I believe personally that all the politicians know about this.
Yeah, you know, ES&S was started by
2002.
Yeah, ES&S was started by two brothers, Todd, and I forget the other one's name, Urosevich, I believe was their last name. And they were Christian end times believers.
Georgia, in 2002, I think that was the end of democracy, personally.
Yeah.
I think our elections have been rigged since then, and all we have left now is the veneer of democracy.
Yeah, it's pretty grim, and we've got to work on that. David, thank you. Mike in Palatine, Illinois. Hey, Mike, what's up? You got a minute?
Hey,
here.
Tom. Hey, Tom. Because Nancy Pelosi's non-action, Trump could easily take the election in 2020.
She is not doing non-action. She is setting up these. I mean, she hasn't called it an impeachment inquiry. I think she should, but she is trying to get these investigations going. It's just that Trump is stonewalling all of the potential witnesses.
But she could at least start an inquiry which would open the legal floodgates, and she could get the documents she needs and the witnesses that they need.
I would hope so. I would hope so. And I think that all of this obstruction of the just routine efforts to hold oversight. I mean, you know, when the Republicans were holding their Benghazi hearings, Obama gave them everything they wanted. Hillary Clinton testified for 11 hours straight. I mean, you know, and the Republicans are such you know, weak little snowflakes. These Republicans. Oh, you know, we can't testify in open court, says Don Jr. Right? I can't testify in open court. I'm sorry. I don't want to be embarrassed. Give me a break. We'll be back. Bob Ney will be with us in 4 minutes to fill us in on the news of the day. So stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be right back. The book I was reading from, by the way, if you want to check it out, is They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer. It's more current than ever. And welcome back. Les in Central Square, New York. Hey, Les, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
I'm great, but I'll get better. What's on your mind?
Hey, the House of Representatives in the Constitution says they have the power of the purse. They're specifically in there to control the executive branch if they get out of control. The power of the purse says that she can go after him. She can stop any money flow to anything he wants to do or anything else.
Right.
That's how powerful the corporate Democrats
she can also
are.
control the
She's
courts.
Not doing anything.
She can also control the. She can also control the courts. So anyhow, back to you, Les.
Control the courts. How can she control the courts?
She can stop funding. She could shut down funding to any particular court that she wants if it passes Congress. I mean, you know, the power of the purse is legislative. So you know, it has to go through the House, and then it has to go through this.
Do it by itself?
No, the House can't do any of this by itself. It requires the Senate as well, and then the president's signature.
So what the hell can she do? I'll tell you what they can do. They can make sure all Democratic states put in paper ballots. They can have all Democratic states do that. There's a lot of stuff they can do instead of just sitting there like they have for 30 years.
Yeah, well, they haven't been sitting there, Les. They've actually passed a lot of really, really good laws that have been blocked by the Republicans. But you're right. You know, doing something about our elections again. There are two great pieces of election protection legislation that passed the House of Representatives in the last 6 months, and Mitch McConnell is refusing to even hold hearings on any of them. Jim in Los Angeles. Jim, what's in your mind today?
Oh, my goodness, Tom, I love you, man. You made me laugh when I'm in pain after 14 surgeries, and I love your listeners.
Well, thank
Brilliant callers. And one question. Tall American, all patriotic Republicans, why would you be happy with Mitch McConnell welcoming Russian control of our elections? Why?
Right.
And
well, I think the answer is obvious, Jim, that the Republicans are happy to have, you know, a foreign power. And I don't think it's just Russia, by the way. I think that there are numerous foreign powers that are run by right-wing governments who are enthusiastic supporters of Donald Trump and will be messing, and probably already are. I mean, you know, I look at social media and I see what sure looks to me like we're under bot attack again.
And Tom, that wasn't my point. It was Trump Republicans will never change. Amash of Michigan makes me proud to be a Michigander.
Yeah.
You have 10 million listeners in LA, but had Nixon, when Nixon committed treason to win the election, and thank you so much for educating me on that and playing that LBJ tape. You should do that a few more times.
Yeah.
But Nixon committed treason. 25,000 of my friends and brothers died,
and 1 million Vietnamese. Jim, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but we've got to wrap it up. We're hitting the break, but you know, I'm absolutely with you. And Mitch McConnell, in my opinion, is not being a statesman. He is being a hack, a political hack, and of the worst kind. Jim, thank you so much for the call. We'll be right back. You know, every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, you know, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, you know, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and let's check in with Talk Media News and find out what's going on in the world today. This report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Loving What You Do. Ellen Ratner's new book. On the line with us is Bob Ney, author of Sideswiped, former congressman from Ohio. Congressman, welcome back. You lived in Iran, you worked in Iran, you speak Farsi, you were the only member of Congress who really understood Iran and spoke the language. Now we're seeing these 2 tankers burning off the coast. Last month there were 4 tankers that were attacked. My understanding is that these tankers are carrying refined Iranian oil products to possibly Japan at the same time that Shinzo Abe, the prime minister of Japan, is in Iran trying to negotiate, apparently on behalf of the United States, to bring us back into this deal. Maybe if we can put Donald Trump's name on it, he'll sign on to some kind of deal. Do I have all that right, Bob? And what's your take on this stuff? You're much more of an expert than me.
Well, you're 100% right, Tom. And here's what I think is the bottom line of it. And I'm going to throw out a little bit of conspiracy theory, if I may, with your permission on this one.
Go for it.
Well, the point is this. We had a couple of explosions previously with Saudi tankers, which I said at that time it could be the Saudis doing it themselves. After all, the people that verified that this was probably an Iranian hit are the Saudis who chopped a reporter to pieces while he was alive and then denied they did it. So who's to believe them?
Right.
Now we have strikes on 2 tankers, and the one, of course, as you pointed out, the Prime Minister is was in Tehran to try to have talks start between Iran and America, because the president canceled, of course, as we know, the Iran nuclear deal, and on top of it, he allowed his national security advisor, John Bolton, to literally bring us to the brink of war with warships and troops and everything else under the sun staged and ready. Then when Trump realized the Iranians weren't going to talk, then he started to try to find a way to back off, including saying, I'll talk with them with no preset conditions. leading to the ally of ours, of course, Japan, with the highest level visit, talking about this. Now, right in the midst of all of this, of the Prime Minister saying, why don't both of you, the America and Iran, talk, then their Japanese ship gets hit. And I'm going to speculate here. It could have been a wide variety. It could have been some rogue element in Iran that doesn't want America and Iran to speak. But one thing I can tell you is it is not the Iranian government.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, the United Arab Emirates, Tom, and Saudi Arabia, what did they come out with? Well, it was state-sponsored. And the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, of course, are after Iran because Saudi Arabia's got a proxy war going in Yemen, and they just got funding, as we know, from the Trump administration based on an emergency.
Right, over the objections of Congress, in violation of a law that was passed. Right.
Correct. And Republicans, Lindsey Graham, et cetera, high-profile Republicans. So they did it over that objection. And, of course, you have the son-in-law. We talked about that on your show yesterday, all wrapped up, Jared Kushner with the Mideast and Mohammed bin Salman, businesses, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot here at stake, and the Saudis pull the strings. Number two, this could have actually been a hit potentially paid for by the Saudis. Yeah. They paid a third party to go make a hit. And let me tell you my conspiracy theory here. Oil futures jumped. I mean, people making money, manipulating the oil futures, manipulating world oil, they were so happy over this because futures jumped. So if I've got a big investment and I want to go hire somebody to do some type of, quote, act of terrorism, guess who makes money? So I'm going to throw that in there.
So the Saudis benefited from this.
Absolutely. And people who make money, oil futures, again, they jumped. They've been low. So they jumped. So as far as trying to blame this on the Iranians, it may be, again, maybe a rogue element, but this all still smacks of this powder keg over there. And I can tell you right now, our European allies are begging and stressing for calm between the United States and Iran itself because they are so worried that something's going to happen.
Bob, when I reported on this at the very, very beginning of the show, an hour and a half ago, I drew the comparison to World War I, where all these countries had these interlocking mutual defense agreements. Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated. Everybody thought it was no big deal in Sarajevo. But, the Austro-Hungarian Empire thought it was a big deal and started invoking these treaties, and boom, we were in World War I. Is it possible that this conflict, if we have open conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran in the Gulf, could lead to a world war?
Oh, absolutely. I am thoroughly convinced, as others who analyze the situation and have analyzed it for the past quarter of a century, are convinced that John Bolton achieved success for the first time in decades to actually get this right to the powder keg stage. He was able to do that, moving warships, making threats, meeting with the Mujahideen Khalq, the MEK, which he was paid to meet with them. And now we find out in an article the other day that they have been doing a lot of fake news, putting out information over Twitter, all fake names, to try to promote war. And that's what this is about. The war machine utilizes John Bolton, the Cheney types. Bolton is a leftover from those days, obviously. And he is very influential as National Security Advisor. He got us right to the brink. Yes, it's very possible.
Amazing. This is something we need to pay.
We're being manipulated by Saudi Arabia.
I absolutely agree. And people should be calling 202-225-3121 and asking for their member of Congress and the Senate and saying, hey, let's actually enforce that law. This is Saudi Arabia, can't get those weapons. Bob Ney, thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
So where else do you have an opportunity to call a talk show for a full hour? I mean, you know, you can call anytime. Obviously, you can't call for the hour, but you can call anytime during the hour for a full hour and talk to one of the two, you know, Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Mark Pocan. We did it for 11 years with Senator Sanders. In fact, we started when he was Congressman Sanders. Where else do you have an opportunity to actually call one of the leading members of Congress, the leaders of the whole Progressive Caucus, the largest or second largest caucus in the Democratic Party? When else do you have where else do you have the opportunity to call and say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I like this legislation. What's your opinion on that? What's really going on behind the scenes? You know, unfiltered, you know, it's just straightforward. Well, not very many places. We do it on this show. We've always done it on this show since basically the first year of this program when Bernie started out with us. And we're very proud to do that on this program, to provide a national town hall to genuinely progressive candidates. If you like that, if you find that of value, among all the other things that we talk about on this program, from my rants to, you know, people like Richard Wolff and whatnot, please support our program, support Free Speech TV. Call now, 877-378-8669. We are still way behind in our fundraising drive. We're up to maybe 30-35% of what we need, where we need to be as of this point. And, you know, we're slowly getting there, and a number of people have been calling, and I thank you so much if you called in yesterday or the day, well, anytime in the last, you know, couple of weeks. Thank you. And if you haven't called yet, and literally $5 is a big deal. If you've never contributed to Free Speech TV, you get a regular monthly newsletter and email that just tells you what's going on Free Speech TV, and you're literally helping support this network stay on the air. It costs money to run a television network. We're not going to billionaires and we're not going to corporations for that money, and so we have to have your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help keep Free Speech TV on the air, help keep this program on Free Speech TV. It really it won't happen without your support. And, you know, if we keep having these terrible fundraising numbers like in the last couple of days we've been within 10% of hitting our goals. But the previous week we were at 5 or 10% of our goals. I mean, it was just downright scary. And now we've got to overcome that. We've got to make that back up. And we really, really need your help right now. So please, if you support this program, if you care about this show, if you care about Free Speech TV, call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. You can also donate at freespeech.org. We have some premiums. With a $20 one-time gift, you get the Trump toilet paper, a roll of Trump toilet paper. You know, how cool is that? With a $50 gift, you get the Trump toilet brush and stand. This is incredible stuff. With a $60 gift, you get both, right? If you bought them one at a time, they'd be $70, but with a $60 gift, you get both the toilet paper and the stand, and the brush with the stand. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With a $20 a month gift, that's a commitment for at least a year to say, yes, every month, just ding my credit card for $20. And with that contribution, and these are pretty important contributions also, these regular recurring contributions, because it helps Free Speech TV, you know, budget. With that gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, you get the stainless steel water bottle with Democracy Starts With You on it, and the tote bag with a $30 a month commitment for at least a year. With a $500 gift, we're going to do a virtual meet and greet. It'll be just us. We're not going to be broadcasting this. We're not going to be recording it. I mean, it's just going to be an opportunity to talk. It'll be on the internet. And we're going to have a good time. We've done these before, a little less high profile than, you know, talking like this, and it's fascinating. With that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come hang out with me in person. You can come here to Portland anytime. We schedule these things a couple times a month, well, maybe every 2-3 weeks. Typically 4, 5, 6 people come, bring a spouse or a friend, or some people have brought their kids. It's been interesting. It's been fascinating. You know, the people that I meet, who are regular viewers of this program here on Free Speech TV, just some wonderful people. And you'll get to meet a few other great people who are also $1,000 donors. Or if you're going to be in Philadelphia for the Netroots Nation, or if you live in the area, I'll be there on July 12th. And we'll be doing our show live from Philadelphia, from Netroots Nation, from the Free Speech TV booth there. And we'll have a little cocktail party on the 12th. So we'll have that meet and greet. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. You know, every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell the list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Ultimately did not attend either conference. It's the Mueller report.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. A big tip of the hat. I'm trying to Gene Koch, who tweeted to me about in fact, I retweeted his tweet about Brett Kavanaugh. Let me just run through this, and then we'll pick up your phone calls here. But U.S. Code 30121, right? And you can just Google that. I mean, U.S. Code 30121. It is titled Voting and Foreign Elections, Contributions and Donations by Foreign Nationals. And it says, now this is what Congress passed. This is the law that the House and Senate both passed and the President signed into law at some point in the past, I'm not sure when. It shall be unlawful for a foreign national. Now that's an individual or an individual representing a company, right? Not just a nation, but an individual. It shall be unlawful for a foreign national, directly or indirectly, to make a contribution or donation of money or other thing of value, Hillary Clinton's emails, or to make an express or implied promise to make a contribution or donation in connection with a federal, state, or local election. It shall be unlawful for a foreign national, directly or indirectly, to make a contribution or donation to a committee of a political party. It shall be unlawful for a foreign national, directly or indirectly, to make an expenditure, independent expenditure, or disbursement for an electioneering communication. And it shall be unlawful for a person to solicit, accept, or receive a contribution or donation from a foreign national and of anything of value, which is exactly what Donald Trump just said he wants to do. Okay, so that's the law. But then we get to step number 2. And step number 2 is what happened in 2011. Back when, a few months ago when we read the Mueller report, we read about these charges against these Russians, these 13 Russians who were charged by Robert Mueller, and they were charged with conspiracy to commit bank fraud and aggravated identity theft. But what they were doing was trying to flip our election. Why were they not charged under 30121 U.S. Code, where it says a foreign national directly or indirectly may not make a contribution or donation or of money or anything of value? Why weren't they charged under that? Well, it turns out that in 2011, a circuit court judge by the name of Brett Kavanaugh wrote an opinion about this law, about U.S. Code 30121. Two foreign nationals brought a case challenging this. This passed in 2002. This law that bans foreign corporations or contributions to U.S. campaigns. The case was Blumen versus Federal Election Commission, Blumen versus FEC. And what Kavanaugh wrote was that people who are not citizens cannot contribute directly to candidates or campaigns for, quote, express advocacy work. But he, and I'm quoting now from a piece in Mother Jones by Samantha Michaels, but he gutted the portion of the law that banned foreign spending that is not, quote, express advocacy. In other words, if a foreign government wants to run an ad that says, you should vote for Donald Trump, we love Donald Trump, that's express advocacy. That's still banned under Brett Kavanaugh's interpretation of this law. But if a foreign government runs an ad that says, let's say, Trump ends up running against Pete Buttigieg. If a foreign government runs an ad that says, Pete Buttigieg is a terrible guy because, back 10 years ago, he tore up the streets in South Bend or something. That's not express advocacy. That's simply electioneering, right? It's not specifically campaigning for somebody. And according to Brett Kavanaugh, that's not a violation of this law. And in fact, the group, this company, it's called Concord Management and Consulting. It's run by a Russian oligarch who's close to Putin, and they allegedly spent $1.25 million a month to set up rallies here in the United States on behalf of Trump, to spread disinformation, and quoting the Mueller report, quote, to interfere in U.S. political and electoral processes without detection of their Russian affiliation. And they were charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States. This company, this Russian-based company, is now coming forward and saying, because of Brett Kavanaugh's ruling on this law, you can't charge us. This is their defense. They're saying, and here are the messages for which they were charged. They were running Facebook ads, memes, out on Twitter and whatnot, that said, and I quote, Hillary Clinton doesn't deserve the black vote. That's not express advocacy. That's not saying we love Donald Trump, please vote for him. According to Brett Kavanaugh's ruling on this law. They had another one. This is another one. It said, Hillary is Satan, and her crimes and lies have proved just how evil she is. Well, that's not express advocacy. According to Brett Kavanaugh, what this law, a foreign national directly or indirectly may not make a contribution or donation of money or any other thing of value in connection with any federal, state, or local election. That seems pretty unambiguous to me. But Brett Kavanaugh says, no. That means you can't do it if you're expressly advocating for a particular candidate. But, if you're trying to change a law, if you're trying to attack a candidate, anything else, that's fine, says Brett Kavanaugh. And this was back when he was a circuit court judge. This is crazy. This is legal, according to Brett Kavanaugh. And this Russian company is challenging this indictment that Mueller brought against them. And by the way, Mueller didn't indict them for election fraud, because of Kavanaugh's decision. And so, Donald Trump looks around and says, who shall I put on the Supreme Court? Brett Kavanaugh is going to back him up. I mean, you know, Congress needs to clarify this law. They need to pass another law that just explicitly lays it out to knock down Kavanaugh's ruling. But this is how far we've gone. We are like, you know, full-blown, full-bore into the teeth of this hurricane of roaring fascism, authoritarianism, one-man rule, strong-man rule. This is not how the United States is supposed to run. And we've got this president saying, oh, yeah, sure, you know, if Norway wants to give me information, a thing of value, to quote the law, I'll take it. Obviously, he wasn't thinking of Norway. We now know that there were 6 different countries who were involved in trying to swing our election back in 2016 and some of them again in 2018. And they included Saudi Arabia, Russia, the UAE, and Israel. There were 2 others. I'm sorry, I don't remember them off the top of my head. I don't have the story in front of me, but I remember those very clearly. That those countries, you know, all run by, right now, you know, the people in power in those countries, authoritarian or authoritarian-leaning right-wingers who have aligned themselves with Donald Trump, independent of the American Constitution, independent of American law. In fact, I would say in defiance and flouting American law. And now Donald Trump is saying, hey, you know, I'm only polling at 41% here. You know, even Pete Buttigieg is beating me in the polls, right? Buttigieg, Harris, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, every single one of them beats Donald Trump in the polls right now. So he's like, hey, you know, anybody want to help out? I'll be real nice to you after I get reelected.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Just like apparently he's saying right now to Michael Flynn, hey, I'll be real nice to you, because Flynn just fired his lawyers and hired a Fox News lawyer. This is nuts. He's expecting a pardon. And welcome back. Let's pick up your phone calls here. Whew, what a day, huh? Daniel in Dadeville, Alabama. Hey, Daniel, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good. How are you, Tom? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little, it sounds a little muffled. I'm not sure why, but I can understand what you're saying. What's up?
Okay, is that any better?
Yeah. What's on your mind?
Okay. We're sitting here, we all agree that Trump should be impeached, but the question came up and we don't have the answer. So I said, let me call my brain here. If Trump is impeached before the 2020 election, can he run after he's impeached or run for the 2024 election?
That's a damn good question, Daniel. I don't know the answer to that. That's something we'd have to ask Lawrence Tribe or some other constitutional law scholar. In all probability, it's a question that has, well, obviously no president has ever been impeached, so it's a question that we've never had to encounter. So it's never been, ruled on by the Supreme Court. I just don't know. But that's a scenario that's not impossible, although I'm guessing that if he is impeached, it'll be because enough Americans realize that the guy's a grifter and a criminal and a con man and not even a billionaire, and therefore they probably wouldn't reelect him if he tried, but God only knows. That's an amazing one. Daniel, thank you for that. Phew. Jeff in Portland, Oregon, listening on X-Ray FM. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hey, good morning, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. And it's not the reason I called today, but I'd like to quickly say I'm glad to hear you're all on board for an impeachment inquiry. As you've been saying, this guy's trying to inflict fascism on us. And so I just want to add, and this isn't meant to be overly inflammatory, but just to honestly wonder if Nancy Pelosi is going to go down in history as a Neville Chamberlain or a Winston Churchill.
Well, we'll see. There are people. I was talking with a Democratic consultant maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. A guy who works. In fact, I'm not sure who he's working for right now, but he works with the Democratic Party, and his point to me was, yes, we have to have impeachment hearings, but the odds of Donald Trump actually getting removed from office are pretty much zero, and so the impeachment should be used. Now, keep in mind, this is a purely political lens that he's looking through, that the impeachment should be used to prevent Donald Trump from getting reelected. And if that's the case, you don't want those hearings in 2019. You want those hearings in 2020, leading up to the election, so that his crimes and the horrors of what he's done in office are fresh in people's minds when they go to vote. Because anything that happens a year and a half before the election generally has very little impact on the election. So maybe she's, you know, the smartest knife in the drawer. I mean, maybe she's looking at this. I don't know what she's doing or how she's doing it, but I'm not yet willing to criticize her, Jeff.
Okay, I'll go with you on that. And unfortunately, Tom, I couldn't make it to the book event last night at Powell's, but I did see Ice on Fire, and hats off to you and everyone involved. It's definitely a must-see.
Isn't that an amazing movie?
Very, very impressive, impressive and urgent. And great to hear Bernie open the show today. And thanks to, I think you said it was 11 years of brunches with Bernie.
Yeah.
We know he's been unwavering and standing up against Reaganism, but you know, pushing back against the Pentagon is also what we need to do. Walk and chew gum at the same time. Not just FDR, but Eisenhower's warning about the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. Very, very well said. Thank you much for the call. We'll be right back. And thanks to all of the folks who showed up last night in Portland. It was a hoot. You know, every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, you know, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, you know, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Steve in Conroe, Texas. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. What's up?
My comment and question is, I was watching some of the mainstream media today, and the pushback a lot of the Republican Congress people are using is that, you know, if what Trump's saying and, you know, what Hillary Clinton did was just as bad, which, you know, to my understanding, Hillary Clinton and the DNC hired Fusion GPS, which is an American company based in Washington, D.C., and that wouldn't necessarily be against the law, would it?
No, and Fusion GPS compiled a huge report, thousands of pages, or I don't know if it was thousands, but hundreds of pages certainly, of basically opposition research on Donald Trump. And let's not forget, they were first hired. Fusion GPS was first hired to do this by the Washington Examiner, I think is the name of the newspaper. It's a right-wing newspaper out of Washington, D.C., owned by a right-wing billionaire. They first hired Fusion GPS to look at Trump during the Republican primary, because they wanted to take down Trump and promote, I think it was Marco Rubio or something. And then when Trump got the nomination, then the Democrats said, and Fusion GPS lost the contract. You know, the Fusion went to the Democrats and said, hey, you know, we've compiled all this stuff on Trump. You want to hire us? The Democrats said, sure, we'll hire you. And among the stuff that Fusion had gotten was the Steele dossier, which was, again, not from a foreign government. Michael Steele was a private contractor who happens to be a Brit. And so, yeah, there's no comparison to what Trump is talking about and done.
Well, the thing is, though, that you don't see the pushback coming from the people interviewing who are pointing that fact out.
Right.
It's just they're allowed to use, I guess you could call that a false equivalency.
That is exactly what it is.
It is, and nobody ever just calls them out. It was one of the the congressional people. He's a congressman from California that was on, that I happened to catch him and another Republican senator using that same line, saying, well, if that's so bad, then, you need to go after Hillary Clinton because, she had this.
It's apples and oranges.
Hired this foreign. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you hire that company if it's legal to do that. Now, I know they don't like regulations, but if you need more regulations for companies like that, maybe that could be looked at.
Sure.
But that was just really my question. That was real interesting to hear about the Brett Kavanaugh ruling. I did not know that. That was real interesting. I was watching when the man called in about that law.
Right.
And I thought that was real interesting. One of the reasons I watch, I learn all the time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, me too. And thank you, Steve. And like I said, I learn all the time too. I'd read this story about the Kavanaugh thing back, a year or so ago when I first appeared in Mother Jones. And then I forgot about it, and somebody tweeted it today, and it was like, oh yeah, it was, yeah, let's do that. Steve, thank you for the call. Eric in Marion, South Carolina. Hey, Eric, what's on your mind today?
Hey, how you doing, Tom? I was just about to ask the question that the guy just asked you just now, and you answered that perfectly. But also, the Clinton people decided not to use that information because they said they could not, verify it.
That's correct.
But so they never used the information.
Right.
But it was the Republican Party that actually paid for that, actually paid money for that information to be getting.
Initially, yes.
That's a fact now. So, like the guy say, I don't understand why the Democrats, when that question comes before them, the news media don't correct the people that throw that out there.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Eric. Carl in Ocala, Florida. And by the way, I would add, there's a big difference between hiring somebody who's a foreign national to do something or a foreign national making a contribution. The law prohibits foreign nationals from making contributions. That's a very different thing from doing work. Carl in Ocala, Florida. You're on the air.
Ocala. Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate it. Your two previous callers have taken the wind out of my sails. I wanted to point out something and also ask you a question. It looks like you've probably answered that. They conveniently, when McCarthy was talking this morning, the majority leader for the Republicans,
right, Kevin McCarthy,
in the House, yeah, Kevin, he was going on about how awful it is. Look at this. Everybody in the last 8 hours, all Republicans responding to what I guess I will use the word President Trump has done or did, has been saying two words: Steele dossier.
Right.
As if it was illegal to hire somebody and pay them a wage to perform Oppo research for you.
Right, which is not at all illegal, and it's not even envisioned in this law.
No, by law, you can hire them to do it, even if they are foreigners.
Sure.
The whole equity fact is, if I give you something, or give is operative here, then there's an obligation from you, or there could be, or I might expect one, that you will return the favor, so to speak. And that's the whole issue is...
Yeah, the law is against foreign donations, not foreigners doing work.
That's right. Foreigners can work for you for a wage to get paid, end of relationship. But donating something is not.
That's correct.
I appreciate it very much, and I, like your previous caller, wish some of our pundits on TV would start holding some of these illustrious
the problem, Carl, with these network anchors is they are scared to death that if they piss off the Republicans, they won't come back on their show, and as a consequence of that, they won't have a show. Carl, thanks for the call.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And so they dance around all the BS that Kevin McCarthy and these other Republicans, and obviously they've had a meeting. They're all using the same phrase, and it's a lie. So where else do you have an opportunity to call a talk show for a full hour? I mean, you can call anytime. Obviously, you can't call for the hour, but you can call anytime during the hour for a full hour and talk to one of the two, Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Mark Pocan. We did it for 11 years with Senator Sanders. In fact, we started when he was Congressman Sanders. Where else do you have an opportunity to actually call one of the leading members of Congress, the leaders of the whole Progressive Caucus, the largest or second largest caucus in the Democratic Party? when else do you have or where else do you have the opportunity to call and say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I like this legislation. What's your opinion on that? What's really going on behind the scenes? You know, unfiltered, you know, it's just straightforward. Well, not very many places. We do it on this show. We've always done it on this show since basically the first year of this program when Bernie started out with us. And we're very proud to do that on this program, to provide a national town hall to genuinely progressive candidates. If you like that, if you find that of value, among all the other things that we talk about on this program, from my rants to, you know, people like Richard Wolff and whatnot, please support our program, support Free Speech TV. Call now, 877-378-8669. We are still way behind in our fundraising drive. We're up to maybe 30-35% of what we need, where we need to be as of this point. And, you know, we're slowly getting there, and a number of people have been calling, and I thank you so much if you called in yesterday or the day, well, anytime in the last, you know, couple of weeks. Thank you. And if you haven't called yet, and literally $5 is a big deal. If you've never contributed to Free Speech TV, you get a regular monthly newsletter and email that just tells you what's going on Free Speech TV, and you're literally helping support this network stay on the air. It costs money to run a television network. We're not going to billionaires and we're not going to corporations for that money, and so we have to have your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help keep Free Speech TV on the air, help keep this program on Free Speech TV. It really it won't happen without your support. And, you know, if we keep having these terrible fundraising numbers like in the last couple of days we've been within 10% of hitting our goals. But the previous week we were at 5 or 10% of our goals. I mean, it was just downright scary. And now we've got to overcome that. We've got to make that back up. And we really, really need your help right now. So please, if you support this program, if you care about this show, if you care about Free Speech TV, call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. You can also donate at freespeech.org. We have some premiums. With a $20 one-time gift, you get the Trump toilet paper, a roll of Trump toilet paper. You know, how cool is that? With a $50 gift, you get the Trump toilet brush and stand. This is incredible stuff. With a $60 gift, you get both, right? If you bought them one at a time, they'd be $70, but with a $60 gift, you get both the toilet paper and the stand, or excuse me, and the brush with the stand. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With a $20 a month gift, that's a commitment for at least a year to say, yes, every month, just ding my credit card for $20. And with that contribution, and these are pretty important contributions also, these regular recurring contributions, because it helps Free Speech TV, you know, budget. With that gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, you get the stainless steel water bottle with Democracy Starts With You on it, and the tote bag with a $30 a month commitment for at least a year. With a $500 gift, we're going to do a virtual meet and greet. It'll be just us. We're not going to be broadcasting this. We're not going to be recording it. I mean, it's just going to be an opportunity to talk. It'll be on the internet, and we're going to have a good time. We've done these before, a little less high profile than, you know, talking like this, and it's fascinating. With that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come hang out with me in person. You can come here to Portland anytime. We schedule these things a couple times a month, well, maybe every 2-3 weeks. Typically 4, 5, 6 people come, bring a spouse or a friend, or some people have brought their kids. It's been interesting. It's been fascinating. You know, the people that I meet, who are regular viewers of this program here on Free Speech TV, just some wonderful people. And you'll get to meet a few other great people who are also $1,000 donors. Or if you're going to be in Philadelphia for the Netroots Nation, or if you live in the area, I'll be there on July 12th. And we'll be doing our show live from Philadelphia, from Netroots Nation, from the Free Speech TV booth there. And we'll have a little cocktail party on the 12th. So we'll have that meet and greet. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I may be coming to your city soon on our book tour for The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. I'll be in New York, Washington, D.C., Portland, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Here I come. More information is available at thomhartmann.com. And Sunday, June 23rd in Seattle, I'll be at the Town Hall at 7:30 p.m. On Tuesday, June 25th, I'll be in San Francisco. Actually, I'll be in Berkeley at 7 p.m. at the First Church. And on Friday, June 28th, I'll be in Chicago, in Darien at Frugal Muse Bookstore. And Saturday, June 29th, Minneapolis, Common Good Books. And Friday, July 12th in Philadelphia. So check it out. The whole list and, links that you can get to pick up the places where you've got to have a ticket, for example, like Seattle, I think Los Angeles as well. You can find it all at thomhartmann.com. Or our affiliated radio stations' websites. Justin Amash is the one Republican who has actually apparently read the Mueller report, or at least the one Republican who's willing to say that he has read the Mueller report, and as a consequence of having read it is saying Donald Trump should be impeached. This report lists at least 10 instances of clear criminal obstruction of justice, not to mention other crimes. And so Donald Trump Jr. has announced that he's coming to Michigan to campaign against Justin Amash in the primary. A guy named Jim Lauer has declared his candidacy. He's going to be running against Justin Amash in the Michigan primary. So I say to my fellow Michiganders, Justin Amash, politically represents, certainly in the area of economics, pretty much everything that I'm opposed to. He's a libertarian. I'm a liberal. I mean, it's like, and yet, here's a man who was willing to stand up for his principles. We have people in the Democratic Party who aren't yet willing to stand up for their principles. Justin Amash is a man of great courage. I tip my hat to him, and we'll see how this shakes out, and maybe you're going to get a crazy Republican who wins the primary, and then that'll make it easier for a Democrat to win. I don't know, or something else. But we'll see where it goes and how it shakes out. But thought you'd want to know. Mary in Twin Falls, Idaho. Hey, Mary, thanks for watching us on YouTube. What's on your mind today?
Well, Tom, I've got a question that has been haunting me. I naturally want to see him made accountable.
Him being Trump.
For everything I can't say the word. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, what is the best way to do this so that we are not in danger of somebody giving him a pardon?
Right. Like Mike Pence pardoning Trump the way that Jerry Ford pardoned Nixon.
Yes. Yeah.
I think, Mary, the only thing that will make that difficult for Pence would be if the crimes of the Trump crime family in general and Donald Trump in particular, and not just the crimes associated with his election crimes, paying off Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal to keep quiet going up to the election, the collusion with the National Enquirer on that, and trying to make it look like Hillary Clinton is sick. There's all these things that he did, obvious collusion with Wikipedia, if not the Russians themselves, and other countries too, apparently now. If this stuff is laid out in a way that all the Americans can see it through an impeachment inquiry in the House of Representatives, then it's possible that Trump might become so toxic that Mike Pence won't even dare, pardon him. But B, Mary, the kind of good news in all this is that you've got Letitia James, for example, I'm pretty sure, isn't her name Letitia? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Who's the Attorney General of the state of New York. She has already taken down the Trump charity and the Trump Foundation, and she is looking at crimes that have been committed. We're talking financial crimes, principally, that have been committed by Trump and the Trump crime family in New York State. Those are things that cannot be pardoned. Pardons only work for federal crimes. So, you know, this is why twice now Nancy Pelosi has said Donald Trump should be in jail, and, you know, after he's out of office. And, you know, so the main and most important thing that we all need to be focused on is getting these impeachment hearings started, getting solid hearings started, and calling Congress, calling your members of Congress. You're in Twin Falls, Idaho. Call, you know, even though you're represented by Republicans, Mary, call them and say, you know, I want to hear what's actually going on. And if you're calling a Republican's office, say, I want to have congressional hearings into what Russia did and other countries might have done in terms of trying to mess with our elections. Make sense, Mary?
I can't even tell you how long I've been doing that.
Good.
And the letters I get back, you know, until just recently, the letters I got back didn't even pertain to what I called about.
Yeah, of course.
But I think I'm on their list now because the letters are referring to what I actually called.
Oh, well, that's good.
About.
That's good. Or they're getting their act together, or they're starting to pay attention to their constituents.
No. I mean, no.
No,
They're not.
okay.
They're not responsive at all.
Yeah.
But so, in other words, are you telling me that if he gets a pardon from, like, Pence, and we vote him out of office, I mean, I just don't want him to get away.
I'm with you, Mary, and I think all of us agree with you. And like I'm saying, the only reason why he's getting away with this right now is because he brought in Bill Barr, who muddied the waters, you know, for a month and a half, you know. Yeah, absolutely. Mary, thank you for the call. We have to have these hearings. They have to be in public. Yes, they're going to interview Hope Hicks next week behind closed doors. Big whoop, right? They interviewed Donald Trump Jr. yesterday behind closed doors. You know, I'm sorry, that doesn't make it. The Democrats need to start saying, you're going to testify in public, period. And if you don't, we're going to hold you in contempt. Robert in Santa Ana, California. Hey, Robert, what's up?
All right, Tom. I got just a couple of things I just wanted to say. When Trump took the oath of office, he swore or affirmed to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Right.
Now, I know he has violated that in several ways. Is that something that possible they can add to other things? He definitely has violated the oath of office.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind, Robert, that when the articles of impeachment are drafted, they will include variations on that theme.
Oh, okay. That's just been hanging in my mind for a long time, and I finally got through to just kind of.
Well, that's what the founders meant when they wrote high crimes and misdemeanors. They didn't mean literally something that is against the law, you know, like, you know, it's against the law to jaywalk, so we're going to bust you for jaywalking. What they meant by the phrase high crimes, and you go back and you look at the literature and the language that was used back in the 18th century, in the late 1700s, high crimes meant violations against your own country, things that hurt your country. They may not be necessarily illegal. And that's why they called it high crimes. That is, crimes of high office. It was associated with the office. And the presidency is the highest office. So if he is using that office in ways that run counter to the interests of his country, whether they're explicitly against the law or not, those are things for which he can be impeached, and frankly should be impeached. And he's doing that, I think, every day. 10,000 lies in 2 years? I mean, that's just as a starting point. And the list goes on. Robert, thank you for the call. David in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey, David, what's in your mind today?
Hey, Tom, this is a question that's bothered me for quite a while. Can you name at any time in history, in any country in the world, that has given tax cuts to their wealthy and their businesses during times of armed conflict?
No. No, typically they raise taxes so that they can pay for their weaponry.
Exactly, it's like this. There's no country at any time, and it's how could we even think of it? Here we are in 3 hot wars: Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Yemen. We're talking about, and we've got people pushing to go into Iran and Venezuela, and they're giving tax cuts. Granted, this started with Bush, but tax cuts.
No, it started with
and
Reagan.
Armed conflict.
Yeah. Well, we weren't in armed conflict during Reagan, other than Grenada. But yeah, you're absolutely right, David. And the other thing that is that the whole tax cut thing, going back to Laffer and all these guys who were hanging out with Reagan in supply side economics, which was simply a reboot of what was called sparrow and horse economics back in the late 1800s and the early 20th century. Which is, if you feed extra oats to the horses, they will go through fast enough and undigested enough that the horse poop will have more oats in it for the sparrows, right? And Reagan kind of cleaned that up with trickle-down economics. If we're pouring all kinds of wine into the glasses of the billionaires at the table, some of it will spill over on the floor where you can lap it up. You average working people. But
Stockman.
Yeah, David Stockman. And he wrote a whole book apologizing for it. He's been on this program a number of times apologizing for it. But it's a lie. The idea that tax cuts will stimulate the economy is simply a lie. It doesn't work. It never has worked unless they are tax cuts that are exclusively for working people. This is what Obama did after after the Bush crash in 2008, is they suspended the half of the Social Security tax for a year, maybe a year and a half or 2 years, and that allowed working people to have enough money to go out and buy things. But when you cut taxes on rich people, it does nothing for the economy. It just makes the rich richer. David, thank you for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's 45 minutes past the hour. And welcome back, Jenny in Clio, Michigan. Hey, Jenny, what's on your mind today?
I just had what's getting to me is like a chessboard, because we're concentrating on the Mueller report, which is fine. But then Saudi Arabia and us they have a going relationship with their, with the wars and everything. What's concerning me is they're making laws now that we have to follow. They're breaking rule of law, traditional, making laws that we are having to follow all over the place. And also they've got troops on the border. That's the biggie. They've got our troops on the border, and
on the Mexican border.
Yes, and we got our troops there already. He's sending troops to, I believe, Honduras, so they can't come out of the country. And so what concerns me is we're chasing rabbits while over there. That's a convenient, I hate to say that, way for them to set up confrontation where he could possibly delay the elections. I'm beginning to think the election is the biggie, the date of it, or some way machinating this, especially when you mentioned Brett Kavanaugh and the law he passed in 2000. It's just, there's a lot of this that is really concerning that way.
Yeah. I get your concern, Jenny, and I share it. This is basically what we saw happen in both Italy, Germany, and Spain. All three countries, when the hardcore right-wingers took over, they ended the elections, or they rigged them over the short term. Yeah. But thank you for the call, Jenny. But we had a civil war. We had a bunch of states secede from the Union and declare war against the North, or arguably the North declared war against the South, whatever, however it worked out. I realize that's still a subject of some debate, but we had a civil war in the United States, and Abraham Lincoln did not suspend the elections of 1862 or 1864. He did not change the elections. They continued. They went right straight forward. We were through World War I, World War II. These were major crises. In World War II, millions of American men were not even in this country any longer. They were overseas, and we didn't suspend the election. So I'm not so worried about that. But there's a long list of other things I am. Dee in Bellevue, Washington. Hey, Dee, what's up?
I just wanted to say, remember when the Republicans had everyone sign this pledge to support the Republican nominee, and that's putting party over country,
Yes.
as well as that pledge to make President Obama, a one-term president.
Yeah.
And the last thing would be, please note the tax cut, permanent for the 1%, not permanent for the 99%, which ends in December 31, 2025.
You're right.
So what happens to everyone's taxes when the 1% has a permanent tax cut, but the 99% doesn't? What happens after that day, the first, 2026? Will the Republicans be out of office? Will be in so much debt? No money is coming in, and then there's so many things that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's hate and fear that blinds us to it. As long as it's not the other, then I'm going to follow this. We're making him a tyrant.
Yeah, no, he's making him a tyrant. We're watching it happen, and in slack jaw amazement. And you're absolutely right about the tax cuts and the way it'll play out. Reagan raised the retirement age for Social Security from 65 to 67, but he did it back in 1982, so it wouldn't take effect until 2020 or 2016, I guess it was. So he was never blamed for it when it happened. And I'm telling you, in 2025, when the taxes go up on working people, they're not going to remember that this was Trump. Dee, thanks for the call. Every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell the list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you. Welcome back. Teresa in Riverside, California. Hey, Teresa, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Mr. Hartmann, I just want to say, you're a great man, sir. I'm going to always keep that going.
Well, thank you, Teresa.
Listen, I feel bad for Nancy Pelosi because Ms. Pelosi is trying to keep a lid on everything. But can you give me some reassurance here? Probably not, but can you just kind of, to make us feel pretty doggone good about the fact that we still have Social Security, hopefully keep it, Medicare, we hope to keep that. Right. Now, my biggest problem is that how are we going to get rid of that Republican Party? How are we going to get them senators out of there that we know taking money firsthand? How are we going to get rid of them, Mr. Hartmann? Tell me how we get rid of these people.
We do it, Teresa, by waking people up. This is why, one of the things in the fundraising pitches when I do them for Free Speech TV and for a lot of our nonprofit stations and our for-profit stations as well, station promotions and things, I say, please tell your friends about this station. Please tell your friends how you are watching or listening to this program. Please share it with as many people as possible. And of course, take my information, whatever talking points you learn from me, use those and talk to your friends, at work, your neighbors, your acquaintances. Teresa, the only way that we're going to pull this off is education. We have to wake up the American populace. And as long as people are just getting this pablum fed to them by the corporate media and the lies fed to them on a daily basis by Donald Trump and Kellyanne Conway and Sarah Sanders, as long as that continues without anybody pushing back on it, we're going to be looking at another 4 years of Donald Trump. So I don't know of another way. You know, if there's a protest or a demonstration in your town, yeah, join it. If you're a local Democratic Party in your community, and pretty much every community has one, join it and do what you can. Obviously, those things, and not everybody can get out and do that. You know, some people are disabled, or it's difficult, or they got to work a lot. But the easy thing to do is sharing the information with other people. Does that make sense, Teresa?
You know, not only does it make sense, sir, before I go, I just want to tell you this. People, listen to Mr. Hartmann. He's trying to tell you, pay attention. That's why your show is very important. Not only that, Mr. Hartmann, if we don't start paying attention, all the people that were sending all this money to resurrect this, what they call it, this border, whatever they want to call this fence, they got jerked out of $23 million. Do you know what that money could have went for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It
could have paid for your TV time forever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and look at the $25 million in fines that Donald Trump paid for running a scam university, Trump University. It was a fraud.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, spot on. Teresa, I got to run. I want to get a couple more callers in here before the end of the show. But thank you so much. It's great to hear from you.
All right.
Greg in Atwood, Kansas. Hey, Greg, what's up?
I actually have a different view on how Nancy Pelosi is moving forward with the impeachment hearings. I think she's looking at some of the polling data from places that Democrats flipped from Republicans in the last election. Do you think she's afraid if they move too fast in areas where impeachment isn't as prominent as places like New York and California, we may lose those seats that we just picked up?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is the problem that Nancy Pelosi is dealing with, is if it looks like an impeachment inquiry or an impeachment effort is purely political, simply trying to reverse the outcome of the 2016 election because we don't like the results, if that's how people perceive it, they're going to turn on the Democrats. It's going to hurt the Democrats more than it'll hurt the Republicans. And that's why, you know, she has to do what Sam Ervin did back in the 70s with Richard Nixon. When he started those hearings, those Watergate hearings in the spring of 1974, or maybe it was late 73, when he started those hearings, support for impeachment of Richard Nixon was at 17%. 6 months later, after 6 months of the American people, day after day on TV and live public hearings, not behind closed doors hearings, day after day, so public support for impeachment reached 67%, and that was the point at which the Republican Barry Goldwater went over to the White House and sat down with Richard Nixon and said, "Sir, you've got to go, because we cannot take the force of this. We're going to have to vote to impeach you." And Richard Nixon resigned.
Do you feel that she thinks we're too close to the 2020 election to push that?
No, I don't think that that's part of her equation at all, although I haven't talked to Nancy Pelosi in probably 10 years, so I don't know what she's thinking, and I wouldn't try to assume what she's thinking, but I believe, based on what she's said and what people around her have said, that she's more concerned with the rule of law. She's more concerned with Americans knowing how corrupt the Trump crime family is and revealing that in a way that enough Americans get it, that they're not going to think when she moves into the impeachment phase that this is purely being done for political purposes, but rather that it's being done to try to save the republic. Because I'm telling you, our republic is at risk right now. Greg, thanks a lot for the call. Very thoughtful question. And in fact, thank you all. We've had a bunch of great callers today, and I hope these topics have been of value to you, in particular, discovering what Brett Kavanaugh did to make it illegal for foreign governments to mess in our elections. Oh, my God. And this guy's on the Supreme Court. Anyhow, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, with more information to help you win the water cooler wars, the place where despair is not an option, right here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Check out our book tour. It's at the top of ThomHartmann.com. And tonight on HBO for free. You don't have to be a subscriber. HBO Now, HBO Go. You can check out our new movie, Ice on Fire. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit ThomHartmann.com.
We say fight back!
Show.